Welcome back to the Union Street Podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We have a very special episode today with my good friend, Felipe Mattar, in the building.
Hi guys, nice to meet you. Thank you for having me, Luke. It's a pleasure to be here.
Felipe, it's an honor, man, to have you here in the studio, beaming all the way from the UK right now. And it's a thrill to have you as a Brazilian jiu-jitsu champion, a professional soccer player, a man of international business, and a good friend of mine. And so it's a pleasure, my friend.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine, but you're making me flash and look too good. I've done certain things, but not that great.
Oh, no. And I must say, one good-looking man as well. So we go way back, Philippe. We were actually roommates.
In that we can relate.
Thank you, sir. Yes. So we actually played soccer together. We were roommates. We lived together in Champaign, Illinois. Shout out to that whole era, man.
Exactly, man. It's a long time ago, but it doesn't skip my memory.
Those memories, you're right. It's like getting on almost a decade ago, but those memories, man, and times we've had, wow, we've got some stories that we'll share offline, not on this podcast.
Yeah. I think the cops will be behind us if we share too much.
Exactly. Different time. But man, we're going to just get into, you as a person. You're so interesting. Like I mentioned before, various topics. We always have great conversations whenever you and I get on a FaceTime or a call. Nowadays, that's what we have to do.
Exactly.
But hey, man, it's a thrill to do it and thrill to have you.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So you have a very interesting and unique story too.
Yeah.
Because how you even got to Parkland, being from Brazil originally, but then living across the U.S., now living overseas, all over Europe. You're still in the UK now.
Yeah, I am, which is quite different from everything else that I faced in my life, to be honest.
I'm sure it is. I want to get into it because that's a really cool perspective. Like an international man, have a really, a lot of people don't have that experience. So I think it's cool to be able to hear your insights and just hear some stories about some of the things you've seen and experienced and what you're up to now as well. And we can get into it.
100%.
Yeah. Barcelona, right? You have a beautiful wife, by the way, shout out off the bat.
Thank you. She definitely is beautiful. And shout out to you for coming out for our wedding. Really, it was special.
That was, talk about a memory that I'll never forget. You were kind enough to invite me to your wedding in Brazil.
Minimum can do.
And man, it was just amazing to see that culture. It was like a bucket list. It really was for me. And, so thank you for that invite. And
from what I remember, you were thriving in the culture. Look, let me tell you.
You could say I was immersing myself.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for the language barrier, I can only imagine where you've gotten.
I could imagine some fun. We'll just say that.
100%. That was a great time. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully we can connect again in Europe soon, where you're.
100%,
yeah. Right. So
you're more than welcome to come over. We can even record a podcast from my living room if you want. It would be a pleasure.
That'd be awesome. I look forward to that.
I don't have that cool setting as you do, but we'll work something out.
We've got a mobile setup. We can take on the road if we need.
Cool.
We'll go international. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. So Felipe, I want to start, man, just sort of the beginning, right? Can you take me back? Just give me a brief background about yourself and getting into jiu-jitsu, getting into soccer, because that's a huge love of yours, obviously. And I think that is a foundation of like where you are today, and we can get through that. But can you take us back, paint a picture for anyone listening or watching?
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm born and raised in São Paulo, Brazil. For those who don't know, it's sort of New York times 3 in South America. So there's a huge city that it spins around everything that happens in the country, really. I was born in that setting, in a well-off family, to be honest. Very, very lucky to have been born in that family. But I had some bumps in the road very early on. My mom passed away when I was only 9. She got sick when I was 4 or 5 or something of the sort. And then, I mean, she couldn't handle it and passed away when I was 9. I have two siblings. My sister was 7 at the time. My brother was 4. So it's a heavy hit to the family. And I think that moment, even though it was it's a great tragedy in my life. It changed completely my destiny and my future, and that's in built to who I am right now. So I saw myself at 9 years old. My dad had two other kids and a company to run. So I think most of the attention was going towards them, and I was kind of expected to grow up faster than a regular 10-year-old kid will do. So I think that's luckily who I am, and my genetics allowed me to do that. I never mourn too much. I never, suffer too much. We'll get to that later because I think that's impacting me today, and it has been impacting my life positively and negatively for the up until now. But with that said, that's when we get into soccer. I think when I was about 12, came to my home, said like, Dad, I'm feeling shit. I need to, do something. And the thing that I love the most, football. So I'm going to call it football because here in the UK, if I get called soccer, people, kill me. So
Fair enough.
I
Fair
start,
enough.
yeah, I started playing football as serious football because I always played in school and I always was a little bit better than the rest. And started playing when I was 12. So there's a small club called Nacional. Is It was literally 20 minutes away from my house, and it's quite well known to bring up players from nothing to good level professionally. My dad took me there. I did some tests and start playing there. I mean, it was great times. That's where I really developed for two reasons. That I didn't realize that at the moment, but now I do. Because one was I had to, grab a bus and go do it by myself and challenge myself in the real world, which in Sao Paulo, which is a quite violent city, filled with criminality for 12-year old at the moment, do it. It was just, and I remember my uncles and my aunties asking my dad, like, what are you doing? How do you allow him to do that by himself? It's just a kid. And my dad's like, I don't have time. If he wants to do it, he needs to do it himself. That was one thing that really challenged me. The other one was create the discipline to do it every day, repeatedly. And I think that what brings me to be who I am today, discipline and, trying to get, things that I need because different than playing with friends in school. When I got to the club environment, it was, very serious. I was not even close to be the best. I was obviously put in defense because I didn't have the technique to play offense. And but hey, I started developing from there because I knew that I need to do more than the others to get somewhere. I was doing that, and also I think the biggest learnship that I carry until today is that how to relate to any type of people. Because as I said before in the beginning, I come from a well-off family, and then being thrown into this environment where there's real poverty, like people are walking kilometers and kilometers just to go practice it, or they are selling their lunch in school just to be able to pay for the bus to get there and stuff like that. This kind of stuff really opened my eyes. And at the time, you're a kid, like you don't understand that differences. And then being able to relate to those guys and make friends with those, I have very good friends from that team yet. So I mean, it was great times. Stayed there for 3 years and played in some nice championships, playing some nice, cups. They did well. I was a starter, and then I got invited to play for Corinthians, which is a much bigger team. It's a humongous team, really. And I said, well, obviously I won that because I'm a supporter of that club anyway. So I just wanted to wear that jersey. But it was, I mean, talk about a level up. It was incredible. Like I got to a team that we were well organized, national, and had good things going on, good players. When we get there, it's like you have to kill a lion one day because everybody is so good and everybody is trying their best all the time. So I got there. I was obviously in the bench. Got to know some famous guys, played with them. They probably don't remember it, but Marquinhos was playing the World Cup. I played with him a couple of times, and Lucas who plays for Tottenham. These guys were all there. So I mean, it's a great experience. I mean, I will never forget. But when I came about 16, and that wasn't going right because as a kid you got frustrated. Like I was like, why I'm not playing, why I'm not going to right places. And I said, you know what, I think I'm going to give up football because you're there and you also high school is going on, so that discipline that you have back there start to pull you different directions. So I gave up football and started a different sport, which was jiu-jitsu. And I mean, I loved it for the competition. I loved it because it was super technical. You don't need it to be super strong, even though I never lacked the strength. But I mean, that I like the idea of, the technicality and, practicing to do better than the others. That's cool. I did it for a little while. I jumped in a few competitions. I never actually won one, but I won a couple of fights. One of them was a world championship for white belt. So I mean, it's good fun. I like to always push myself, and but it teaches discipline and really teaches how to manage life from a difficult situation. Because I think jiu-jitsu, where you're rolling, it puts you in some situations that it feels like you're gonna black out or something of the sort. But if you keep calm and you try to understand how to get out of that position, you probably can. So that's a few of the learnings that I took out of that.
So I want to add some context to anybody out there that is listening that doesn't know about Corinthians or really about the, football, soccer culture
Yeah.
that is in Brazil. Can you like give a little more context to like how impactful that is and like how that might compare to a sports team here?
Yeah, I mean, football in Brazil is the biggest thing in the world. There's not such a thing of like, how you're gonna walk around and you're gonna talk to people in America and they're gonna say, yeah, I don't really watch football, I don't really watch basketball, I watch this sport or the other. There's not a possibility that, a person, they might even say, oh, I don't like football, but they know all about it because that's always been talking about it and everywhere in the country. Like that's I mean, women, men, whatever you want, everybody watches football and knows about it. So that's how big it is. And Corinthians, just to put it in context, Corinthians is the second biggest fan base in Brazil. That amounts to about 35 million people. So I mean, there's countries in Europe that don't get that many people, like Portugal's 10 million people, Spain, So I think that gives you the magnitude of how heavy that shirt is, how important that is. Just if I may add two stories on that, which are crazy. One is very old, 1976. Corinthians was 22 years old without winning a title, and we were playing the semifinals of the Brazilian Championship in Rio, which is about, let's say, 400 miles away from São Paulo. And in Maracanã, the biggest stadium in the world at that time, we had about 65 to 70% Corinthians fans, not the locals. So I mean, it gives you the magnitude. And in an even bigger way, 2012 we won the Libertadores, which is the Champions League from South America, and we went to play the National Cup, the World Cup for clubs with against Chelsea in Japan. So Brazil to Japan is far and expensive, and those 35 million people that I mentioned, the majority are poor, the majority are from lower classes, and we had about 45,000 people in that stadium in Japan that flew from Brazil. They sold their cars, sold their houses just to be there at that moment. That's how big and important Corinthians is.
Wow. That's incredible, man. That is like huge, 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 huge fan base. Like so important to, the culture there.
Yeah,
And Sao Paulo being the biggest city in the whole continent by, quite a few
yeah,
million. Man, I think that's important because, soccer is such a global game and that is such a huge, huge fan base that people here in the US don't really get a full appreciation to the size and the passion. So I think that's really important. I remember when we were living together at the time, putting Corinthians on and just having a ball. You get the jersey on, and we would just
yeah.
just watch some good soccer, good football. I
That's,
loved
I
it.
tell you what, that's something I'm really proud of that I'll never, that's a passion that I'll never let go. I mean, every time that I have a chance, I'll watch a game and, I'll always go crazy about the game, regardless who we're playing or how important the game is. So yeah, that tells a story. And I mean, I think, but I think that's changing what you said that the American guys, they're not really understanding what the size of football in the world and how passionate it is. Like, look how well you guys did in World Cup right now. And I think that very talented team. Well, that's the difference on, previous performance. The US did well because you ran more than everybody else. But now it was actually a talented team that they could actually play and try different strategies and so on. So I mean, it's incredible.
It's a great game. It's, a love, and there's so many, just a passion and emotion that about the game and the love of the sport. It's just an amazing thing. And it's a hugely, it can lay the foundation. So was it a driving thing? Was there something at that point that you're like, you know what, I'm going to, or was it just because it's soccer and or football is so beloved and it's so part of the, the identity, it's just like it's just a part of you.
I think second option is more accurate, to be honest. I mean, it's just like a part of me. I cannot not think about it, not not be passionate about it. And at that time, obviously, you don't have the consciousness that you have now when I'm 31, but I still have that. Like I breathe and leave that sport. And if I could, like that's something that I tell my wife, tell everybody that if there's something that I could change in my life, that I would go back to that day and play it all over again because that's what I really love.
That's awesome, man. And we had some great competition, right? I mean, that the thrill of competition, the winning, it's just so there's so much that you can take. I mean, I would go back
Yeah,
too. Let's go back to playing soccer, man.
I
That would be
need
amazing.
two new knees, man.
Yeah, I need a shoulder. I need, you get the knees.
Oh yeah.
We, we're no short of tearing up going all out, pushing the body to the limits of
Agreed.
pursuing the passion of
100%.
the sport. I mean,
Now I tell you what, there's, I mean, whenever you're completing that level, it's not healthy for your body, really. If you do it properly, it's not healthy for your body because you push it to the limit, as you said, beyond the limit. I mean, everybody gets injured, like knees are being popped every day, and there's a reason for it, but you continue to do it.
I remember we were training at Parkland and it was the 2 days and those were hard.
No,
And
that's awful.
in between, you got in the ice bath and
Mm.
you were way ahead of the curve with the trend of the cold submersion because you're so sore, like you can barely walk after some of the practices. Doing the cold tub. I remember I was like, this guy is next level hardcore, but it works.
Not for real. I tell you what, though, so that's crazy. Do you remember this? You got to, so you weren't there because you were a year behind me in college, but I got there. First day was like, I don't know, 100 degrees and 2 mile run under 12. And I come from Brazil, I'm like, what? There's no chance I'm doing that. Absolutely not. I got myself out there. Obviously, I didn't make the 12 minutes. I was half dying. And I had an awful season because that's a that's a the adaptation that you have to go, and that's the first international challenge that I ever faced because, well, firstly, it was one of the first international experiences I was having, but also you plugged off of Brazil, São Paulo, and you throw in Champaign, Illinois, a bunch of Americans, people that you never lived with a different culture of football. And being Brazilians are very, very full of themselves in football, very cocky, which I today despise, but I know that I was like that in the past.
Well,
But
you're pretty good, pretty
but
good, pretty good.
but still, I despise the way that we think about the sport because I mean, if you ask 99% of the Brazilians will respond, we're better than the others in football, regardless, because we're Brazilians. That's the answer. And at that moment, I said, like, I don't have to run 2 miles to play better than those guys, which was kind of true. But I mean, with that apart, at the end of the day, I had to because the speed of the game was completely different. I mean, and there's one thing that to the day, I think that messes up the college system of football in the US is the amount of subs that you can have and subbing all the time. Because that changes the game, doesn't it? Like if you the professional game, you cannot press hard 19 minutes because you just don't have the legs for it. In American NCAA rules, you can sub all the time, so you're all the time fresh, all the time on the fly. So the game is not very well played. It's just like long balls and fights in the air. You don't really have time on the ball because it's impossible. So that's something that I had to adapt in. I had a horrible first season. Horrible first season. When you got there, I was lightly injured. That's why I was doing the ice bath, and I knew that to keep up that pace, I had to, take care of my body. Otherwise, I'll be far behind.
That's so interesting that you put it that way. I mean, that is true. It's a high pace. I remember coming to that level, it being a step, two steps faster. Than than really I had played to that level before. And yeah, subbing in and out. I mean, that's a lot of
That's
long
insane.
balls, a lot of just all out. And there was injury, and that is a big part, unfortunately, about that is that those injuries come with that. And we both
Yeah,
had those. I mean, everybody was kind
and
of injured. You
I think
said it.
in that and adding to that, because it's a sport that doesn't get a lot of money in school, you usually plays that on turf, and that adds a lot to the injuries because turf really stucks you in the grass. It's harder to move, and the impact is much bigger. So in a sport that you have impact, you have changing of directions all the time. It's very tough on the body.
Yeah, it is. It is. And well, like you said, we said pushing it to the limits. So let's go back to jiu-jitsu real quick
Yeah, yeah.
and that transition. So were there things or challenges that jiu-jitsu gave you that soccer wasn't at the time? Were there obstacles or things you
Um,
had to face that were different?
Definitely. This jiu-jitsu soccer taught me discipline. I think jiu-jitsu taught me resilience. Resilience of being in those tough positions, and you know, unless you keep your calm and you really think about how you're gonna get out of there, you're not. So I really bring that to my life nowadays. I mean, when I work in a competitive environment, and every time I see myself in a tough situation, obviously you get stressed, but you need to know that the world's not going to end. You're not going to die. You might black out, but you're not going to die. So just continue on going. Like have a plan and stick to it. That's what we really jiu-jitsu taught me.
That's excellent. I mean, that is well said.
Now I tell you what, I mean, jiu-jitsu is an art really. That's a all the jiu-jitsu fighters will say that I'm not a jiu-jitsu fighter anymore. I do know some moves, but now I'm really. I would love to do it again, but time is precious. But they say it's an art, and it really is because it doesn't depend on your body; it depends on your mind and how far you can take your mindset. So I think the true champions, the guys who really take the sport to another level, their minds is something to be studied.
That's so cool. And that's the top, top of anyone that you can learn from is like that mind behind it.
Yeah.
You know, how do they think, right? How do they face the adversity? How the resiliency? How can they
Hmm.
overcome? And again, push the limits. You can black out, but you can also tap, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then it depends on what you want to do, right?
It's like I'm not tapping. You're gonna have to
No,
knock.
I'm too stubborn. Like I remember the master that I was training with was a very strong guy, and he was very it's the type of guy that you see as a fighter, really. And he would black me out every practice, and he would do it because he knew I wouldn't tap. He knew I wouldn't tap. I was like, I'm not tapping. You can black me out as much as you want.
Wow. So that was a little stubborn Felipe back then too, huh?
Yeah, yeah. No, and I evolved, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that will teach you some humbleness, right? Some humility,
100%.
right? And
Yeah,
banging against the wall of, this guy's
yeah.
gonna get you. and having to
And I
submit to
tell you
that.
what, that's very true because I came from a sport where I was, I played at a considerable level and I was very good, and went to a different sport where I was like really a beginner with a mindset of not being a beginner. So that taught me something for sure.
Yeah, and there's nothing like getting choked. Like that's pretty much like okay, boom. That,
It sucks. Yeah.
yeah,
It's awful. And I agree. I agree. That does teach you a lesson for sure.
yeah, right. Some humility.
Yeah. And I
And
tell you
yeah,
what,
oh please, yeah.
no, I tell you what, I mean, I've been thinking of going back to jiu-jitsu for the past couple of months, really, because I moved to the UK and I'll get into it, but my knee cannot stand football anymore. So I do feel, I miss a sport that, makes me compete and teach me this kind of stuff rather than just going to the gym or running or whatever it is. So I mean, I've been considering going back. It's just a matter of finding the time.
It's a big commitment time wise.
Yeah,
And at this point, at least I'm trying to maintain, right? I'm trying to have longevity in my fitness, right? And so not
yeah,
as
great.
same thing with football, not as contact. Unfortunately, this
Yeah,
is where we are now, Philippe. We're becoming old
yeah,
men.
I agree. No, I'm not becoming. I'm already there. Trust me.
You've been there. Yeah, I remember it was, having going to the cafe, reading books, studying, very like you've always been like the professor type,
For
just
real.
very studious and very like, very, just fashionable and like with that. So yeah, we, longevity, right?
Yeah.
Less
Hey, let
brutal.
me tell you something funny that happened today on this topic of being old or getting old. So you're here in the UK. The past week was about 20 degrees. I'm talking Fahrenheit. So everything was frozen. Today it got about 35, 37. So that ice became water and it was super slippery. And for those who don't know, I have a Siberian Husky, a female called Verona, love of my life, really, after my wife, obviously.
Of course.
And but being a Siberian Husky, she demands a lot of walk. So this morning we went out walking, and I had my umbrella, my wife, my dog, and we're happy. And but we saw it was super slippery. I was kept telling Danny, like, be careful, it's slippery. She's pulling us. Let's keep our ground. And then we were just coming back from the walk really nearby my apartment. There's a little ramp in Verona. I don't know what happened, but she really pulled me. I didn't notice, but when I saw I was on the ground, like 10 meters down the ramp, right? I was like, God, I'm getting out. That's hurting like a bitch. I
No.
mean, all fours in the ground in the middle of the morning. It
Oh
was
man.
ridiculous.
No. Dude, that hurts.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It hurts my ego, to be honest.
It's like you're on the ground. It's like this is not good. My body
No,
could
I was
not
like,
take these falls.
I couldn't even realize how I happened to be on the ground. I just noticed I was on the ground with my back hurting like a bitch. It was funny as hell, though.
Verona. She pulls you down, man. The things you
Yeah.
do for the woman in your life.
Yeah, no, if you don't understand, I do everything that I can for that dog. It's just like that. It's shameful.
Wow. High maintenance, man.
Teenagers.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I remember the times of rowdiness. Maybe it's a
Hmm.
little, maybe a little payback coming around, maybe for some of the earlier,
True.
you know.
Imagine if my dog does that to me. Imagine my daughters.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Well, not to that part, but
sure, sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh. So yeah, let's getting back into soccer. So I want to, sort of go into the decision to come to the U.S. to go international.
Yeah,
I want to go through
yeah,
that, and maybe we can go from the jiu-jitsu, the soccer, but then coming to the U.S. So how did you come about coming to the United States to study in college and to play soccer in
yeah.
college at Parkland College?
Right. So that's a bit it happened out of the blue, to be honest. So even though I wasn't playing soccer competitively anymore, I always played with friends. I always that was my passion, so I never stopped. Beautiful morning, a friend of mine called me, said like, "Hey, do you want to come play for this team? I mean, we were men down, and I mean, just come out and play. I said, okay, I'll go. I went there. I didn't know, but it was kind of like a test to see who could go to the US and who couldn't. There's a few companies in Brazil, just for contextualize everybody. There's a few companies in Brazil that are doing that. Like, so you do tests for a bunch of kids, they formulate teams, and they go there and like kind of agents those players into the top universities. So I went to one of those tests just to play, just for fun, really. And I killed the game. I mean, I really played well that day for some reason. And the guy approached me like, "Have you ever thought of going to US?" I said, "I mean, no, but I could think about it because at that moment in my life, I was working with my dad already. I didn't want to go to college in Brazil, so that kind of rebel teenager thing that you don't know what to do. Sorry, and then I said, okay, yeah, let's see where he takes us. And the guy actually found Parkland College to offer me a scholarship. Ever sent a few clips of mine. So I said, well, lovely. When do I go? 6 months down the road. After taking lots of English classes to be able to get that school, I managed to get there. Didn't have to do a test. I did take a TOEFL, which is a English proficiency test. Did it actually very poorly, but the minimum to pass, I made it and went to the US. That's how it happened. I never said, "Oh, that's my dream. I really want to do it," but I saw an opportunity and I took it. That's what happened.
That's a pivotal moment, right? Just
Changed my life.
going to the field that day and playing.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, the decision to follow that through until the end, because I could have played, got the offer, and said, you know what, that's not for me. But I changed completely my life, and many people don't realize the amount, like the size of that change, the magnitude in someone's life, because you're moving from a different continent to another place where at the end of the day, you are a foreigner, you are, somebody coming from a different country trying to find a life. So in many places, you're not well seen, like, and I, I think it was the first time I found, racism and stuff like that because I'm Brazilian. Not, I mean, everybody treat me well, but you could see that people make fun of your accent, people make fun of you don't know how to say words and stuff like that. So that's the first time I faced that. But besides that, you moving away from your family house to somewhere that you have to do it all yourself. You have to, start a new life. But it teaches so many lessons. It's what's literally the best time of my life. Um, that 4 years in US, literally best time of my life. That changed me the most. That made who I am. Like to know how to battle for my own things without having to rely on family and stuff like that. So I'm very thankful.
Yeah, that's a unique and experience to be able to, in a big impact moment, to uplift your whole life, to take crash courses in English, to say, I'm going to go
Yeah,
study at this American university, which a lot of Americans wouldn't be able to pass those classes, let alone
for
learn the
real.
language within the year and be able
Yeah,
to come. So that's amazing. That takes a lot of courage and, you know, head smart to be able to pull that
yeah.
off. Really.
And I tell you what, too. Nah, so I'm very proud of my English level when I compare myself to known native speakers. But and as you said, when I was a sophomore in school, we had that English whatever composition, and I was the best in the class, full of Americans. So I mean that I was very proud of that. And then I come here to UK to work, and I write PowerPoints, I write text, whatever. I mean, but I write. So this week I wrote a big PowerPoint for a client, and my boss calls me in his room, say like, I corrected all your grammar. So like, were there many grammar mistakes? Yeah, you write everything with the Z, and we British, we write it with an S, and you guys are bastardizing our language. I was like, I'm not you guys, first of all, I'm Brazilian, but that's how I learned.
Right. Yeah, those damn British English, you know,
And I did.
those Brits,
They
man.
write behavior. They write behavior with a U. I'm like, but
Right.
I mean, it's fine. I'm learning something new
Right. They're, they did start, but they did start us, but we broke off. Sorry, U.S.
You know.
I mean, red, white, and blue. Come on.
No, no, I tell you what, it's the same thing with Brazil and Portugal. Like every time you face a Portuguese and they go like, "Oh, you don't speak proper Portuguese." I said, "How many people speak Portuguese like you do?" And he goes, "Oh, 10 million." I said, "Yeah, there's 170 million speaking Brazilian Portuguese. I mean, who's speaking wrongly?"
Right, right, exactly. So, I mean, that's an interesting point. I mean, you speak many languages at this point, right?
I speak, well, I try to speak English. I speak Spanish and almost same level as speak English. When I was in Spain, I was speaking much better, but now that I don't speak as often, it goes away a little bit. And well, obviously speak Portuguese is my mother long tongue, sorry. And I'm learning French and I can scratch Italian.
That's amazing. I mean, that just shows a very certain type of intelligence, really, to be able to just know all those languages. That really does, and again, gives you that international perspective. I mean, you have such a unique international perspective. But I want to go back to back to coming to U.S. Was there, what was the biggest shock? Was there a culture shock? Was there some sort of transition? What was it?
It's a tough question, but I think it was a culture shock mostly because everything that not everything, but most of the things are very different. Like talking to girls were different. Going to the supermarket is different. Like everything, it's placed different. It's taught differently. So I had to relearn, but for me, it was the moment that it really enabled me to be, to become an international citizen, which I want to be really, because I started understanding there's no right or wrong. I started understanding that, yeah, there's things that I prefer the way that we do in Brazil, but I understand that Americans would prefer that way. But there are things that I prefer how we're doing in America, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like to pick and choose and create your own, way of living.
It seems like it would just open you up to, a new culture, a new way of thinking. I mean, that just broadens your horizons and the possibilities of what you can even accomplish on your own, I would imagine.
Exactly, I agree. I think I think in the USA there it's the culture of winning. It's so big, and the culture of doing things at the top level, trying to be the best at everything. I think there's a lot of things to be taken out of that. There's a reason it's the land of opportunity. I don't know if it is anymore, but it was in the past century. So there's a reason for that. Then whoever doesn't see it and whoever doesn't want to learn from it, it's a fool. At the same time, you have to understand that coming from a different country, you're gonna face things that you're gonna think Americans are fools, and eventually they are because they're not perfect. But it's how to find that middle ground on what is good, let's take it. What's not good, let's let it there and continue doing the way we're doing, or find a different way in a different country, whatever that is. But it's it's constant learning, really.
Would you say that if you had to say, so from Parkland, you went on to North Park, or you went to Florida too, right? And then
I went
finishing
to
in
Florida.
Chicago, right? Graduating.
Yeah.
Is there something from that your whole college experience, coming international to US? Is there something that is like a highlight or like the number one moment? Obviously, graduating and getting a degree, but is there something that experience gave you or taught you more than that stands out as like, wow?
Uh, Out of the top of my mind, I can think of two. First one is obviously the friends that I made. Like you're the biggest example of it. I mean, we are here that 10 years down the road, speaking to each other, having great and deep conversations. For me, that's priceless. And I would put that in front of the degree, really. There are very few guys that I consider in that level that of openness that we have. So that's definitely one. And the other one is showing myself that I can do it. I think that's I really learned that because when you come from, so the way I look at it, I failed in football when I gave up Corinthians. I thought I couldn't do it. That's why I chose to do something else. I was failing in life really because I chose not to go to college in Brazil because I thought it was too hard. I had, working was better because I was making a lot of money. Well, not a lot of money, but like a lot of money for a 18-year-old, you know. So that, I mean, I was failing in life, not pulling myself through those challenges. And then when I accepted to go to US and challenge myself, the way that I followed, the path that I followed showed me that I can do it. And that's something that I bring it to me, bring it with me up until today.
That's great. I mean, that is true, man. The people, right? I mean, I think that's a great answer. I mean, really. And then showing you what's possible, what you're capable of. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
huge, huge thing. That's amazing.
And I think it's interesting thing that it just came to my mind, but really, you see how insecure a person is at that point. Because, as you said, I went to Florida and then to North Park, and I did that because I really grabbed the first opportunity that knocked on my door. I didn't have the patience, not the trust in myself that something better will come along the way. So I had to move from Champaign to Lakeland, Florida, and then back to Chicago to North Park because when I realized Lakeland wasn't the right thing, it was too late. I was already there, and I should and I could have waited until other things coming up just to contextualize. The Lakeland team was a good team. It was nice, nice. It's nice to go to Florida, but everything else was wrong. It wasn't for me, and I was just trying to sell myself a dream that okay, let's live in Florida. That's better than wait. I was waiting for DePaul University to give me an offer, and which they did later, 2 months after. But I had already signed. So in this kind of stuff, like could my life be different? Yes, but I learned that at the end of the day, I need to trust myself and know that the best is yet to come, and you have to trust that you're doing the best and you can do it.
Wow, that is really a reflective point there, Philippe. Like, and it sounds like, that just being able to wait a little longer. I mean, that's a lesson right there. And ending up in Chicago because I know you love Chicago.
Yeah, dude, that's Chicago's a special city.
It really is.
So when I went back to Chicago, it was for many reasons. One is I love the city. Second, I had to get away from Lakeland. I mean, for me, that wasn't the right thing. It was a Christian school. It wasn't working out. And third, North Park is, the top football program in the country for D3. We're D3 school, but we play D1s in summer, and it's head to head. We often win. So, I mean, I thought it was the right thing to do. And I have an interesting thought on North Park, really, because coming out of my sophomore year and entering my junior year, that's when I went from Parkland to Lakeland. I prepared so hard during that summer to do my best athletically wise. And I got to that pitch and I was flying. Dude, I'm telling you, like, I was in the best shape of my life. I was tearing things apart. I was playing really, really well. And I got frustrated because there's older guys in the team that were the captains. They weren't playing as well as I did, but the coach needed, they're the captains, whatever. This kind of stuff. But that frustrated me. Uh, so when I went to the North Park team, I didn't prepare that well that summer because issues with family. My dad wanted me to work, not to practice, so I didn't practice as much as I should. I got there, and I couldn't keep up the pace. And obviously, was my senior campaign, my senior season, and I was benched 75% of the game. Yeah, I would participate. I would enter the games often because of the amount of substitutions, but I was not that important as I wanted to be in my senior year. And it's crazy that I was feeling super down and people were just, in my mind, I was like, I just need a spark because I want to continue playing this sport. And one a good friend of mine in Brazil said, hey, there's this tryout for professional teams in Chicago. I'm going to fly out there to play. Do you want to play too? I said, you know what? I do. And from that moment on, I turned on the ignition. I practiced so hard that the shape that I was saying that was best in my life in the junior year was nothing compared to what I got. And that's and because I really put myself behind that. But that was in the off season of this. So which was funny. I remember that until the day because there's some guys that I had a little bit of a nudge in the team, and we were come for spring season practices, and I was flying again, and I was beating them in the body. I was just faster, stronger, and a better player. And then everybody was like, "What are you doing? Why weren't you like that through season?" I'm like, just I don't know, but it is what it is.
You know, that inspiration point, man. Sometimes you just turn on the Jets, and maybe it was you were fed up with not getting on the pitch as much. And you're
Yeah,
like, you know what, I'm going to change this. Work hard, and you found the results.
100%, 100%. And then in Chicago, shout out to these guys. It's called Bridges Soccer. I think it's Bridges. I was Bridges, and this guys they got young players and try to send them to Europe. And what really turned the ignition for me was that I start practicing with those guys somehow. I got there. It was far as hell from downtown Chicago, so I did it twice a week. It's like about 2 hours in the train. It's not nearby. Got out there, and the level was superb. Just D1 athletes, everybody, very, very good. And I said, I need to be in this level if I want to go somewhere with it. And in a month in, I was in that level. I was playing, head to head with those guys. And that when I saw that I could do that, athletically wise, I was like, whoa, that's going to work out. And I spoke to the guy. I said, like, I know it's too late to go to Europe because that's about May and they were going June. But I want to play somewhere this summer. I'm graduating. I want to give it a less shot for football. He said, okay. I found you a team in the NPSL, which is kind of USL at that moment. USL is not a professional league at that moment yet, so that's why. And then I went out to play for Mets and 56ers. And eventually, in the weekends that we didn't have full games, we'd go back to Chicago and practice with the Bridges. The guy was like, "Are you seeing much of the pitch?" It's like, "Yes, I'm starting every single game." And he was impressed, like, "Yeah, compared to what you got here and now where you are, I mean, that's a super, super improvement." And we went to win the regular season league that year with the Mets 56ers. So that's another great memory and achievement that I carry with me.
That's great. And again, reaching a new level, right? Pushing yourself to that
Yeah,
next limit, and boom, you get the reward of the winning of the season. And that's
exactly.
the payoff, right? That's like that's satisfaction. Like nothing can be compared to that thrill. I've not found
Agreed.
nothing can
Yeah,
compare. No, nothing else in life can compare to the level of winning and that fulfillment. I'm
I agree.
convinced. I'm convinced.
Me too.
Something
Me
deep.
too. I think
Something deep.
no, and it's that happiness that people are the pursuit of happiness. Those are the rare moments where you really achieve that. And that's why they're so great because they last what 30 minutes. That feeling that lasts you 30 minutes and then you already think what you're doing next. So really when you get to those, you have to enjoy it.
Absolutely. You have to celebrate those. I mean, that's what life's all
Yeah,
about, man.
agreed. 100%, man.
Yeah. And so, graduating from North Park, is there anything else before we shift forward here? Is there anything else that you think is memorable or stands out from that up to that point that you want to mention?
At that moment, I wouldn't realize that. But now, after years, I obviously think about this. And one thing that I do think that I would have done it differently was the way I went to the US was completely out of the blue and not thought of. And now, if I had the chance to do it again, I would think it properly because there are two things that you can get better than my collegiate career, both academic and athletic. And keep in mind, I mean, academically, I was, an All American 3 years in a row. I mean, I did it pretty well academically, but it could have been better because I didn't have a plan on what I wanted to achieve out of school. And because I did this three jumps during school. So I did Parkland, Southeastern University in Lakeland, and then North Park. If my advice for anybody who's doing it is like, don't stick to a plan. If you don't get in the first year, try a second year, try to get top school. Yeah, if that's what you want to do, going to school and pursuing life as a businessman, do try to do it the best because you're gonna have the debt after anyways, right? I didn't luckily because I had scholarships everywhere I went, but like most of the people will have debt. So make it worth it. Like don't get like a random school and just yeah, I'm gonna do that. No, go for like something that really stands you out in the crowd. That's what I would change my college in my career and collegiate life.
Sure. Finding that right fit. I think that comes with patience, and that's a learned thing too. You know,
Yeah.
being able to wait and know, like you mentioned, the best is yet to come.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's important. I mean, that's a lesson. But man, I mean, I was able to visit you in Florida. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
I came down
Okay.
and I saw
I
you.
scored the day you gave in there.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, scored it exactly. I was on the
Yeah.
sideline cheering, man, and I kind of
That's
look like I
special.
do now. With my unshaved look coming back from a vacation. So
That's true.
it was similar, but no, it was good to see you there too. And then even at North Park, I remember going in and
You
taking
can
the
visit.
train into North Park, and just to be able to, be a small part of that journey of yours too is something that's always been, very important, and something always be fond of, being able to see your growth and see where you've been, and just to cheer you on, man. So
And I
that's
tell you what, I mean, I mean, that's one of the most special memories that I have from college. Most, I mean, that just shows what we're doing here today. Like that friendship that you don't need to talk every day. You don't need to be, know deeply each other's lives of all moments. But whenever you connect, it's like nothing changed. You speak openly. You know what you like or you don't like. You just like support each other. That's amazing. And the effort that we put behind just to be together. I mean, that's great. I mean, that's something that I wish I could do more often. And even though we don't, we know that those times will be there and they will be great because we're gonna enjoy it at this moment.
100%, 100%. It's like, just getting right back into the conversation, after time has passed, and that is because that is a sign of obviously this true connection, true friendship, really. So I mean,
And
it's a special thing.
you remember how it all started, didn't you? I mean, you moving in with your family, just bringing boxes and stuff like that. It was a great moment. I mean, really.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a formative, so very very formative for me, right, for where I'm at now. Like a huge impact. So this the whole
Amazing.
journey. It's been amazing, and then of course coming to your wedding, of course, man. It's just, and you're right. The future, still to have more to make, more to come. So I look forward to all that. Um, you graduated from North Park. How did that transition happen
Right.
for you?
So I graduated North Park in May 2015, and then I went on to the summer to play with the Madison 56ers. That was my first thing. So I stayed in Madison until like late August, early September. And I decided to give it a last shot at my career. And I got this call from a club in Spain called San Andreu. And I went there to try out. So I got there, I mean, living the dream, right? I mean, you live in the US and you go like, I'm gonna have a European career playing in Spain. The club's based in Barcelona. And that was actually my first time in Europe. So huge shock again. I mean, amazing. I didn't speak proper Spanish at the moment, and nobody that was with me spoke English. So you can imagine it was quite cool. But I was prepared. Like I was in top shape of my life. I was coming out of a hamstring injury, but still, like I felt great. So coming to the first practice in a stadium, very cool. Put on the gear, go off to practice. start warming up, do some drills to warm up. I see, I mean, yeah, I'm faster than those guys. I can keep up. I'm in first drill with the ball. I go for a tackle and my knee pops. And I'm like, wow. I mean, I never felt that pain, but I was desperate because I know that anything with the knee, it's a long time to recover from it. Plus, I was in Europe, something. uh, I was scared because I invested a lot to be there. I was scared because that could be all over. Dunny, which was my girlfriend at the time, was already making plans to go live with me in Barcelona and ready to jump in a plane. So all that, and then I got to the doctors, and he said, "Well, we need to do a mRNA, but from the touch and feel, it doesn't look like you broke your ACL." I said, "Okay." I got confident again. But the mRNA came back and it was clearly like, yeah, I needed surgery. So I went back to Brazil, and that was one of the lowest times of my life because it's when you realize that you're not playing, you're not pursuing that dream anymore. And that it was also in that exact same time that I started to realize that I could make it. So it was a shock, it was a huge, my heart was broken, and it is until this day, really. Got back to Brazil after 4 years and a half abroad. So I had to readapt to the culture, readapt to everything, to the life, like moving back with your parents completely. It's a different life and start working. So luckily, I had a business degree, and my father owned the biggest bookshop in Brazil. So I started working for my dad, and that might sound, oh yeah, he got a job with his dad and stuff like that, but my dad was really the person who really pushed me the most. I had no times off. I mean, he was really on my neck all the time to show that I was the best, and trying to do the best for the company. So I had very good 2 years there until we came to a point that he received a very good offer and he sold the company. And then at that moment I felt, well, you know what, I don't feel like I belong here anymore because in my mind I was really being groomed and trained to, sit on that chair one day. And I just realized today, like with everything that I learned after that, how far I was of being able to do that. But it's still, in my mind, that was the case. But then I left the company without a job, found a few friends that were working with real estate, and I said, well, I'll give it a shot. And there are two things that I've learned from real estate. You can make a lot of money, but it's a dual job. I think I didn't learn a leadership skill, like nothing. It's literally repetition and being a pain in the ass for the customers to make sure that they sign the papers and stuff like that. So yeah, I made decent money, but I hated it. But at that moment, I think it was the first time in my career that I started to have a plan. So I said, you know what? I want to be exposed to an international company because I've been to a family business. I've been to real estate. I want to, use my English. I want to use my international cultural ability. And I want to be exposed in an environment there's a lot of competition where I'm not the son of the owner. So I got hired to work at Page Group Brazil. Page Group's the biggest recruitment consulting in the world, and but I never recruited unless it was for my team. So I entered there for a business development role. Literally, my job was schedule meetings, go talk about the group, and get deals done. 4 months into that, I was being outstanding. I was getting the best numbers out of the team. And then the director came to me. It's like, I need somebody like you who can create relationships in the account management team. So I'm going to promote you to be, the senior guy on that team, and you turn the ship around. And that was my biggest project professionally up until that moment, to change an entire area and bring them around. It was the first time I had actual leadership under me. So big challenge. And I'm proud to say that after 1 year in that role, we achieved the best results of that area ever in Brazil. So I was very happy with the achievement. but it came to a point that I started to realize I don't like that job because it doesn't challenge me enough technically. Like obviously, it challenged me that I have to persuade people and get people on my side, get out of a few fights within the company. But it doesn't teach me, lots of numbers, modeling, or the marketing, whatever that is. And I started to think about that. And two other things happened at the same time. I got married, so my monthly costs increased considerably, and I got introduced to the idea of the MBA. And then when people said, "Well, you should do an MBA," I mean, you would be great at it. I was like, I'm not ready to go back to study. I'm not ready to go back to the US. But after 2 months, listened to it. I was like, okay, I think this is actually a very good plan. I started researching. I started researching and started looking where could I go, how could I, pursue more education to have a very big jump in my career, and decided to do an MBA. And then I committed a mistake. I committed a mistake of being too honest, which you know what, I don't consider a mistake, but it was seen as a mistake. I got to my boss and my manager and my director and said, "Hey, I want to grow in my career. I want to, pursue an MBA. So I'm going to be doing that. I just want to let you guys know because I like to play clear and I don't want to, that you guys are disappointed that in the future left you guys hanging or anything." My direct boss, which is a terrific person, she was super understanding and supported me. My director, though, she turned my life into hell. She was like, "This guy doesn't want to be here. I'm going to make him quit," and stuff like that. Obviously, I didn't quit. But
Wow.
yeah, she really pushed me to my limits, and I had a burnout. I woke up and things were shaking. I thought it was an earthquake, and then my wife says, "Oh, no, you're shaking." Like fuck.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's when I decided to leave Page and go for the MBA. So, and stop me anytime you want, but
Yeah. Well, I wanted to follow up before we get too into that next step.
yeah.
With whenever you first went into the leadership role, what did you do to turn around? Was it the way you were leading, leadership style? What were some of those tactics you
Well,
used to make that happen?
yeah, okay. So what the problem was, I need to explain the problem to explain the solution. The problem was we had an account management team that was acting fully as a customer service team and not as an account management. Because in my view, in Page's view as well at that moment, an account management team should upsell and cross sell the product into current customers. So it's a commercial role, but for you don't go chasing new customers, you just upsell current customers. At that moment, they were just solving problems and issues coming from the customers, not upselling. The upselling that was happening, it was natural. The customers were asking for it. They were not being pitched at. So we saw the opportunity of if they're being pitched at, how can we grow that? So I inherited a team of three. And first thing that I've done was, hey, let's sit down together and individually understand what you want from your career. Because I understand it's a big shift. I understand that being aggressively commercial is not being, a good customer service guy to solve issues. Those are two different traits and characteristics. And yeah, I mean, at the moment, I figured out that there's one or two people that didn't want to be there if we were changing that way. So we kind of reallocated those guys within the company, found their better spots, and hired two other girls on their, to sit on their chairs and do the work. So that was the first thing that really changed the team. The second thing was applying data to it. And trust me, I've done that blindly because I wasn't really skilled to do that, but I knew that had to be done somehow. So we had lots of data into the company, but it wasn't being used properly for account management. So I got one of the guys that was like a data scientist that worked randomly in the group. He wasn't assigned to any of the team. That said, what are you doing? What's your project? Oh, I don't have, anything major now. So you're sitting with me and we're doing that together. Um, so we persuaded the global team in the UK, and that's kind of remarkable because we're very junior in the entire structure to do that. But we managed to persuade them to, give the entire team license in the Power BI, which in 2017, it wasn't a big thing yet. So it cost money. It's not like today. And we said, let's throw all the data that we can there and create a module that automatically tells us when is the best action to take with each customer. So we separated it by industry. So let's say retail, oil and gas, whatever that is, through the entire history of data in there and said, okay, in January, this industry has a peak of hirings. Why is that? We found the answer and then say, okay, so if if the peak is in January, we need to contact them in September to start building that. So we are the ones hiring for them at that moment. And I did that for every industry and separated that the portfolios within everybody in my team. So people were specialized by industry. So one of the girls was doing retail and doing, I don't know, marketing. So she really knows how to talk about that industry and exactly when to act. She knew the candidates, she knew the customers and how to plug that in. So that's how I managed to grow that area.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, that's using data, going out and having people more specialized. It sounds like in their own expertise, and using data. I mean, we have all these tools. Data. I mean, data is one of them. How you can leverage it. I mean, that's amazing business, really, tactic. I mean, it sounds like an amazing thing you did
Yeah.
for that company to be able to set up
Yeah.
those
No,
processes.
it was amazing that when that was up and running and it was actually looking very good. I made really trainings for Argentina, for Mexico, for Colombia, for all those operations. I had like training sessions on how to implement that into their clusters, and it was actually really really rewarding to do that.
That's amazing. And being able to lead in that's awesome. And those are skills, those are hard skills, soft skills. I mean that's impressive. So that's really great that you were able to do that, accomplish that. And
Yeah, I mean, I am of the belief, and that's not because I was just listening to David Goggins in the past weekend, as you know, but I am of the belief that you need to be ready for when the opportunity arrives. And even though I had never been in that such a role in that such environment before, as you know, I read a lot, and I might not have lived there, with skin in the game, but I've read everything that anybody wrote about leadership, and so that's what prepared me to say like, okay, I'm not thrown out of the blue to train those guys. I never done it, but I have an idea of what to do, and then I'm going to learn throughout the process. Obviously, I committed several mistakes, but I've learned throughout the process, and at the end of the day, numbers were positive. So I was very happy about that.
you're so right. I mean, that is a saying. They say that where preparation meets opportunity, success can happen or will happen. And being prepared to jump in that moment. I mean,
Yeah,
through your pursuit of knowledge, your education, your getting out there and just working hard, you were able to be ready for that opportunity and to go full in when it comes. You have to be ready for those moments and you have to step up to the plate. No one's going to do it for you. And
no,
that's a lesson. I mean, that's a huge thing. Even if you said there's got to be mistakes, of course.
hmm,
Anytime you do anything that's worth a damn, there's going to be mistakes, there's going to be hardships,
exactly.
but you can prepare. You can prepare mentally and to be more ready to take it on.
Yeah, and don't mistake yourself as well. That oh, that's just a little thing. There's a little nudge along the way. Everything you do and everything you commit a mistake on, and you're learning, that's preparing you for what's to come. That is preparing for you, for what's to come. And I'll get to that later, but all this resilience and everything that I've learned about corporate politics are really playing a role right now in my life. So I mean, it's great to see and be able to evaluate that.
Absolutely. Going on to, so you've been working at Page, made the decision to get your MBA, right?
Yeah,
Is there, uh, and obviously, um, getting married, that's obviously a big thing too.
yeah.
Is there anything else that sort of drove you, and what happened after? Where did you go? What was that thought process leading you and saying, you know what, I'm going to
Yeah.
overcome this injury. I'm gonna move on, move up, and just keep going forward.
Right. I mean, everything I do, I want to be the best about what I'm doing. I mean, I want to, at least the best in my perspective. So I got to a point in my business career, as I said, that I felt I wasn't learning too much, that I needed to learn more. With that said, that would be easy to change jobs and go pursue something else. There are other things playing a role, such as, just got married, need to get more money. But also, I was starting to be fed up of Brazil at that moment. So Brazil criminality is insane. The life you live, the fast-paced living that you do, and you pay taxes and you don't get anything back. That was starting to really piss me off, mostly because I have lived in US. I know how it is. I have briefly lived in Spain. I know how that was a little bit. So I said, you know what? I wanted to pursue something else. And I started looking for MBA schools, which is another big money commitment and without scholarship that time. So I listed top 20 schools in the world and start going through them, like what's the cost, how do I pay for that, like what's the best outcome from each school. So like I started researching where guys like that did that school in which type of industry they were going to. I've done that for 20 schools. And the first thing that I realized, the first cutting from the list, was the US schools. And I cut the US school for two reasons. One, it's extremely more expensive than the others. And two, because I had lived in the US for 4 years, and it would be going back to a culture that it's not that I'm not going to learn from school, but I'm not going to learn culturally because I was very immersed in the US culture. So I said, I want something different. And then moving into Europe, I said, well, now I have several cities and several types of schools that I can choose from. My top list was LBS, the London Business School, HEC, which in Paris. I had Bocconi in Milan, and I had Esade, which is the one that I actually ended up going to in Barcelona. And the biggest difference of those is that LBS is kind of Ivy League, like style, super posh. Guys are into banking, consulting, that is, which I mean sounds great, but super expensive as well. And then you have Bocconi, which is kind of LBS, but in Italy. And then HSC is more focused in the retail world. So because Paris is very luxurious, and so like everybody who is a big shot in LVMH or this kind of companies, they come from HSC. And I trust me, I would fit well in all those schools because I know who I am and I would thrive in those schools. But Ezade had something different, which is a entrepreneurial school. It's a super open-minded school. It's a completely different personality and profile than I am. And I said, that's where I'm going to learn more. That's where I'm going to expose myself to different environments more. And that's why I want to go there, because I'm going to learn much more than the others. So I made the choice to go to Azade and, move to Barcelona. It's a big step because you stopped working for about 2 years, but I knew the rewards. I was so confident of what was to come out of that. That was like, you know what, that's completely worth it. My entire family would think I was crazy. I just got married, and my father was like, "What are you doing? I mean, who's going to support you guys? I'm not." I was like, "I'm not asking you for this," but like people are just like seeing me as like a kamikaze, which if you look from outside, it's I mean, sounds like it, but I'm so confident in what was yet to come that I was like, yeah, that's the right move.
And Barcelona is an amazing city as well. I mean, that's a dream location to be able to live as well and talk about a culture to learn from,
Yeah,
right? What,
yeah. I was having this conversation. So I made several very good friends in the NBA. And one of them is a very good friend from Italy, and very like he's myself and but Italian. He we're having this conversation 2 weeks ago, really, because I'm now living in Manchester, UK. He's living in Amsterdam, and we're both a little bit shocked with the culture and weather mostly. And we made an analysis of all the major cities in Europe where to live. So, like, what's the best? And we concluded Barcelona is definitely the best city to live in.
yeah. You said the
It's
weather, right?
I, the weather is terrific in Barcelona, even though if there is anything of the sort, it's too hot during the summer. But not only the weather, really, the city is by the sea, by the mountains, filled with history and architecture, filled with great food, considerably cheaper than the major European cities. And it's like people are welcoming. Uh, it's just terrific. Like great city. It's easy to go from point A to point B. Just amazing.
I have to give a shout out to my sister Maggie, who lived in Champaign when we did as well.
Yeah,
We used to go get pizza at Papa Del's on Wednesday nights. That was
exactly. Yeah, great
so much
memories
fun.
though.
Great memories. And she studied abroad in Barcelona during her time at U of I. And
Hmm.
I visited one Christmas and I just fell in love with the city. The pace of life, just an amazing place. Amazing city, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. If anybody ever has a chance to go, they have to. I mean, it's
And stay.
yeah. If you can stay as long as you can, yes.
No, for real.
The
I agree. Yeah, no.
siesta, right? The
And it's just like
paella,
I think you brought a
Catalan.
point that's saying for the pace of life is just perfect because you can hustle and you can work, but there is also time for enjoyment. Like you see people 11 a.m. having a beer in the bar, like playing the Monday. I mean, you see that, but I mean that's how they live their lives, and it's quite interesting, quite great actually. You're never that stressed because if you are, you just go to the beach or you just go to the mountain. It's like literally there. So I mean,
Yeah,
it's great, great.
yeah. We do have the hustle bustle here in U.S., but there is something there that balance more of you know
Hmm.
the that yes you got to hustle, but then the other side you got to enjoy it because life's worth it, enjoying. What's the point of having
Yeah,
all these things, working so hard if you can't enjoy it, enjoy the fruits of that? And so
agreed.
it's a great thing we can learn from the culture there as well.
Yeah, 100%. Even though that we have to point out that they push too much for the enjoyment side. Let's put it that way.
Maybe a little bit, yeah. There's a balance, right? It's like a give and
Yeah.
take with that. Now, is there, so going back to that decision to get to that, to choose that school, you went
Mhm.
on to be presidents of certain clubs. I know. Maybe you can talk
Yeah.
about that and sort of your expertise in the luxury market, right? Can we talk about that?
Hmm. Of course. I so while I was at Page, I had some customers that were from the luxury market. And I said, well, I would enjoy very much to sit on the other side of the table, really. So when I got to Azade, my in my mind, how to maximize that the possibility was to join the luxury club and try to be the president of it because that would put me in a position of talking to high level executives of the industry and trying to get something in there. So I did that. I managed to campaign myself up to get elected for president. Um, and I ran the club for a year, and with highs and lows really, because luxury. So whenever you're in the MBA world, there's schools that are better in certain industries, and Izada is definitely not the best in luxury. But hey, I tried my best, and I got some very nice speakers, got some very nice, events going on. But at the same time, I failed to get engagement towards the end of the year from the cohort because people are just, drifting to where the opportunity was. Because at the end of the day, Izada is not well recognized. If you try to get a job at LVMH without an HSS in the logo in your CV, it's going to be much harder. So yeah, I mean, I think a good job could have been done better, yes, but everybody's attention, including mine, started to drift somewhere else, which was okay. I dream of this opportunity. I recognize that it's not there. Where are the other opportunities and how to pursue those now? So that's exactly what I did. I started looking into different industries, started looking into different opportunities to continue in Europe, which was my major goal. I went to the MBA with the goal of I need to find a job in the European continent and stay there.
Now, what was the main force for that? Just wanting to not just stay in Europe, basically. You wanted to stay
Yeah,
in Europe.
yeah. I wanted to stay in Europe because one, I think I identify the most of the culture in Europe, most of South European countries, really, which I'm not there now, but yeah. But I also, it's again putting myself out there and challenging myself, right? Because it's much easier for me to go back to Brazil and find a job and pursue life. I mean, obviously, I'm Brazilian. I speak the language. I know the market. I'm more hireable now to find a job in Europe in a different industry in a different country. All that it increases the difficulty. So I want to say like I've done it. I'm the one who's going to do it, and I'm the one who's going to get the farthest. So that's what was pushing me. I really didn't want to go back to Brazil for several reasons. For the reasons that I left, so uh, I had to. In my mind, it wasn't a possibility not to.
And how do you attribute you being able to make that happen? What do you attribute that to?
Hard work, discipline, and resilience. Resilience of look, I'm telling you the truth. I probably have done over 50 interviews. I got one job. I mean, it's ability of learning to listen to no's, no's, and no's, and not quitting. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I got close to quit. I'm happy that I didn't, but I mean, it's that ability. But also, I think I had a very good game plan for that. I came to the MBA, and one thing that I've noticed really is that 5% of the class have a strong game plan and clear picture that I mean a few goals. The other 90%, they are very talented. But they're not planning that far ahead. They just want to enjoy that moment, which is very fair. And 5%, the rest five, they don't know what they're doing. But I was one of the top 5%, and I had clear goals that in my mind I said, if I achieve those, that's going to be at the end of the day a job. And I pushed for it. I pushed for it very hard. I studied like crazy. Uh, and that's the first time that I thought about and I applied the learnings that I had from sport in business. Because before I'd done it, I know that, but it was not intentional. Now it was intentional. Like I'm gonna overwork those guys. And I mean, it's not easy to overwork a German, but I've done it. I mean, I'm gonna overwork those guys, and I'm gonna be the best that I can in everything, including the moments that I have to shut up and just let other people thrive. I knew that I was preparing myself to be a leader at that moment, and that's what I've done. It. So one of my goals was I want to be top 10% of the class in grades. I've done it, and I was the only South American to do it. Uh, all that, brings me pride, but it just showed that I was right on planning out the steps along the way. I said, well, I want to get an internship. Yeah, I got an internship in a top company. All those things really brought me where I am right now.
And how did you go about um, setting goals, or what advice would you give to someone, maybe your earlier self, if you look back at younger Felipe? How would you say, how would you suggest, or how did you come up with how you even set goals? What goal, how did you pick them out?
That's a, yeah, that's a great question. I mean, first thing I would say a goal has to be achievable, but barely, because that's only like, yeah, I need to be the top of I can be to get there. But it also cannot be like, yeah, I'm gonna be flying without wings next year because that's not gonna happen. That's demotivational. That's first thing. I think but when you set a goal, you kind of need to rework it backwards to understand how you're gonna get there. So I said, yeah, I want to be top 10% of the class. I knew that I would have to be prepared for every single class. I need to, I need a certain grade, certain, touch points to know that you are on the way. Because it doesn't matter, like you set a goal, yeah, I want to be a billionaire when I'm 50. What you're doing, from now until you're 50, it's not that you're not going to do it one way or the other, it's that you're going to lose track of it. If you don't have those touch points, those milestones along the way, you're going to lose track of that. And that's what I did well. Like I knew exactly I need those grades by those classes, and to get those grades by those classes, I need to study this many hours. I need to make this many calls. I need to watch this many videos and whatever. And I was a machine of doing that. I was giving up stuff like I'm not going out. Guys were drinking beers at the beach. I was in front of the computer. I'm not saying that's the best way to do the MBA. Was for me it was. I mean, there's people that enjoy different 2 years of their lives, and I mean it's fair.
Different goals.
But yeah, exactly. But I wanted that. I wanted to show that. I mean, I'm going to be that guy, and I managed. I mean, that's literally how I set goals. For instance, I'm setting a goal now for New Year's, which is you're gonna laugh. It's to be in the best shape that I ever been after my professional career because I'm not gonna be in that shape. I know that. That's like flying with no wings.
Right,
But
right.
uh,
Right.
but
You want the
now
goals to be aspirational but obtainable.
exactly. That's a great wording. So for me now, I'm on the process of designing. Okay, how I'm gonna get there,
Yeah.
how I'm gonna keep myself in track to get there because I really want to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be on me.
It will be.
And the last thing I want to say about goals is don't underestimate them because when everything is going wrong, that's the thing that you have to, hold yourself to. Like when I failed the 49 interviews out of the 50, I could really had to say, fuck it, I'm going to go to Brazil. But I didn't because I need to get there where I want to be. That's what is moving me. There's no coming back from it. I'm gonna regret forever if I give up on that. So that's what got me moving.
Yeah. Don't quit. I mean, don't quit the goal. Don't quit, perseverance. I mean, that's if it were easy, anybody would do it or could do it, but it's not. Hard things are hard for a reason. And
Yeah,
to push yourself, again, that aspiration. And I think you mentioned a really good point to have milestones or checkpoints along the way to your goal or to that destination.
yeah,
I think that will increase motivation, celebrating little wins along the way,
exactly.
not just the big one. That'll keep pushing you forward and pushing you and driving you forward. And like, okay, I can see the
100%.
goal, but I'm not there, but I can see it at different points along the way.
A
So,
100%. I think that's vital for anything. For anything. Hey, you wanna go up, 20 floors building, you have one step away. If there's no lift, you one step away, and you have to celebrate every single step. It just get harder. And if you're not, happy what have you achieved so far, you're gonna eventually say, you know what, screw it, going down is easier than going up. I'm gonna go down.
it is a lot easier to quit, you know.
Yeah,
It is, and a lot of people do. Um,
Yeah, nowadays even more.
right. There's not a lot of toughness, right? But that mental, physical toughness.
Yeah.
Again, you mentioned taking goals that you learned from sport and applying
Yeah.
it to your business career. I do the same exact thing,
Hmm.
and
No,
it benefits. It really it works. There's such a correlation.
there's is huge. It's huge. That's why I think, regardless of your talent, I mean, there are most sports don't require talent, to be honest. Like you can run, you can bike, you can row, you can do whatever. That's not talent. I mean, it's just like you and yourself just go, you know? And this lessons every kid has to go through. In my mind, whoever the parents are not pushing kids to do that, you failing your children because they're gonna miss out. Besides all the healthy stuff that comes with it, it's just like your mindset and your wellness. That's what they're gonna be missing out.
Right, right. That pressure makes diamonds, and having a goal on the board. So I'll share something. You mentioned getting in the best shape after your professional career. Yeah, I have a similar goal I want to do. I want to get in great shape from after my playing career.
Hmm.
That's what I want to do. And it's amazing. I've set the goal to run a marathon.
Wow, when?
This is the first time I'm speaking about this.
That's
So,
crazy, man.
so I turned 29 in February, and there's a marathon in March that I'm looking to do because I'm like, you know what? I got to do this before I'm 30. I got to run a
Wow.
marathon. And so, literally, me flipping that switch in my mind and saying, this is a goal, and it's like a big goal. It's crazy what that has done for me as far as like motivating me to get up in the morning and run. It's insane. I don't understand what
So,
about it, but it just having that goal, it
yeah.
gets me moving. It's
And
crazy.
have you started training for that then?
So I have. So I've done 100 miles in the past 5 weeks,
Wow, that's a
20
lot.
miles a week. And actually, next week, when this podcast is released, which
Cool.
is Christmas week of before
Yeah.
Christmas, that's when my mileage goes up and it starts getting serious then.
Heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, the marathon is no joke, man.
It's like 5 hours plus of running. Just run for 5 hours.
Yeah, in March mostly it's gonna be cold.
It could
Where
be.
where is it?
It's here in Southern Illinois, so it could
It's
be
gonna be
snowing.
cold.
It could be raining. It could be. I mean, there's no telling what the weather could be. Now,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
goals, man. It goes back to soccer. You can't score if you don't have a goal.
Agreed.
And
Agreed. I mean, I'm happy for you. Really, that's a great goal to have. That I'm reluctant to put in my life a marathon because I mean, I'm not a runner, but hey, I'm sure if I set that goal, I can do it. But I'm still reluctant.
it's a big one, man. It's a lot, and it's gonna be challenging. But again, I think going into that discomfort, it's just such a lesson to me, like how I'm programmed just by having a goal. It
Hmm.
literally has propelled me. I wouldn't have done
And
it. I would not have done it like this if I didn't just say one day that's a goal
yeah,
that I'm going
yeah.
after.
No, and how are you? How can you relate that? Because you started training and you obviously have the goal of athleticism and running, but how is that impacting your professional career? Is that positively? Is that negatively? And like, what are you seeing?
It's so positive. It's been an amazing thing. Um, one for just again discipline, managing stress levels. I can tell now if I don't run a
Hmm.
day, I get the stress levels just rise up, and I'm like, I need to have like this release. I need to have like these
Hmm.
miles in because it just relaxes me so much, and that gives me a lot of peace of mind. And so what I was doing, I was running first thing in the morning, getting up. It's been cold. It's winter here in Illinois,
Yes, you
and
have it.
it's been freezing. And but I run. I get out of bed and I run. I don't want to. It's cold. I want to stay under the covers. But
Hmm.
I get up and I run and I put in those miles, and then I come back and I take a cold shower.
Wow.
Even if it's
In the winter.
even if it's 10 seconds. Like I
Oh yeah.
just I just get in and I just like rinse off. and I get out, and after that, nothing that I do the rest of the day is going to be that hard. Like
That's amazing.
for like mentally, just to say, no, I'm going to do it. Nothing comes close.
That's amazing.
And it has just helped me get through a pretty busy time right now.
Hmm.
You know, deadlines, end of the year stuff is approaching. And so I've needed it. And I didn't know how bad I really did need to like start that, incorporating that.
Yeah, because it's great because you just like it's I don't know what time you do that, but let's say it's 8 a.m. and you've done the two hardest things you would have done throughout the day. So like, oh, business issues, whatever. I mean, it's not that hard, is it? Because I mean, you already froze your balls and under the shower and you ran miles and miles and you're all sore.
Yeah,
It doesn't get better, worse than that. So it's miles from then on.
exactly. Everything else, nothing else is that hard. And actually, I got this idea from a really great podcast, the Huberman Lab podcast. It's,
Hmm.
this guy's a Stanford professor. He has a lot of science research about optimizing your health and your whole body, mind, and it's amazing. And he talks a lot about it. He has a fitness protocol. So I'm like, I want to optimize. I want to like
Yeah,
push myself to be better than I am currently. And
yeah.
it's something, man.
And
Fitness is
longevity,
a
as
way
you
to do
said.
that.
Yeah,
Longevity. That's the thing. That's where I'm shifting. And I think I better do the marathon now because I don't want to like continue.
when
It's
you're
a
31, it's too low.
yeah, exactly. And I want to like focus on other areas, of like more all around fitness,
Yeah,
not just like the long endurance training, but more of
yeah,
like resistance training with like torso, upper body, legs.
yeah,
But right now
yeah,
I'm focused on endurance running. But
yeah. No, that's great though. I mean, you're building your machine really. Like there's endurance bit, and then after you become more resistance, and then after you become stronger. I mean, it's one step at a time. You cannot do it all at once. That's for sure.
for sure, and that's one of these programs has helped, right? Having those roadmap, if you will, to get to the
Yeah.
point. You start slow. When I first started training, I was going too fast. I was running fast. I was running
Hmm.
hard. And this training program I had was like, no, you have to run slower before you can run faster and further.
Yeah.
Like you have to just go
Jog.
slow. Yeah, you have to go slow when you to increase your time and build a base is what they call it.
Yeah,
So that's what I've been doing the past 6 weeks is building my base
that's
before
very
I
cool.
take the next like long steps.
Yeah, and then you increase the mileage, you increase the time, all that.
Mm-hmm.
That's very
Exactly.
cool. And
Exactly.
one thing that you mentioned is, and I think really relates to what I'm about to say, is the culture. Like throughout my athletic career here, and then mostly during my professional career, is like I'm trying to find stuff that optimize my day and my performance all the time. So yeah, I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. I work out most of the days, and those things are vital for what I do. But then there are other things too that I've started noticing that they prepare my wellness and how calm I am in certain situations, such as cold weather and cold water. So that for me has always been something good for my body, but it's actually great for my mind as well. So I've been crazy to get one of those, cold plunges. They're so expensive, and
Oh
I
yeah.
don't have anywhere to fit that in anyway. But
Right.
I mean, yeah, just exposure to the cold and enjoying that. I think that's super important. And the other thing that I wanted to say that I picked up from a random place. My dad keeps saying, 20, no, 90% of the content he sends me is terrible, but he sent me one of those Wim Hof guy. And then I saw him doing that breathing. I was like, is that true? Then I said, I'm going to try myself. And I tried it. I was like, whoa, what is this? Because that's amazing. So that I really like, if I have the time, I don't have time every day, but most of the weekends I try to do, you know, meditation for a little while. Then I do a little bit of half, and then I work out. Because this three things in a row really is a brain reset. It's a brain reset, and then you're ready for anything else after that. You just feel great,
That's amazing.
impressive.
Yeah. And that's for anybody that doesn't know Wim Hof. Can you talk a little bit more about that process and maybe how that into
Yeah,
the meditation too, that centeredness with the
yeah. So
breathing?
Wim Hof's the guy. I don't know where is he from actually, but he lives in Lake Tahoe, and he is a guy who swims naked in the frozen water and stuff like that because he trained his body to not care about that and just get the good stuff out of it. So, and how he does that, he developed a breathing technique that kind of he claims makes your body alkaline. I don't know where he's going with that, but what I can tell from doing it repeatedly is that you feel your entire body, you shake a little bit, and you really feel the energy going from up to bottom all the time that you're doing it. So it really does something great for your body. And then he claims that he can jump into cold water after. I mean, happy days for him. I haven't tried yet, but I think it's terrific. I think it's terrific. And then how that plays into meditation and why I don't consider that meditation is because in that moment you're so focused on your breathing technique that you're not meditating really. You're just trying to make that ready, right. Meditating for me is excluding myself from the world and just listen to my mind for a couple of minutes. Like, regardless of what I'm thinking, I need to have that, dark room, no noise, just for myself, just to know, just to really go through my whatever's in my mind and clarify what needs to be clarified. And that really helps. I mean, having that moment with you of trust and really reliability on your own mind. That you have to, if you want to be able to go through pressure, you need to be able to meditate. Otherwise, you're going to break eventually.
Absolutely. Our worst enemy is our own selves, our own minds.
Yeah,
We can trap ourselves, get in our own way the most. So being able to even sit and be aware, having the self awareness to do that
yeah,
type of meditation or practice, you're already so far ahead than most people. Most people don't want to sit there, right, and like have their thoughts actually
yeah,
be addressed and actually how they're what those are. So I think
yeah.
that's a really very valuable practice that I could definitely do more of.
And I tell you what, I mean, I really see this nowadays. Like I deleted my Instagram, deleted my Facebook because I was getting dragged into that crap. And people are just, I swear to God, people are addicted to it. People are addicted to their phone. They could, like, if they can spend 10 minutes in their own minds or 10 minutes in their phones, 99% of the world will do phones.
Yeah,
And it's such a simple thing. Like, you sit down with yourself and think. I think the way the world has been built so far, where people are just not having to face troubles, everything is made easier. Like your parents trying to, fix for you, like not expose you to certain situations. Hey, you're a kid, but you're not going to break because the code. You have to go through certain stuff that will make you better for the future. And it's just if you don't if you're not exposed to that in the very beginning of your life, why are you going to try hard for something later? I mean, like, yeah, meditation will improve you, but you're not going to have the will to do that because everything's so easy and you can just jump on Facebook and have a laugh or whatever it is. So uh, that's
yeah,
unfortunately that's today's reality.
it's true. There is so many outside or extrinsic motivators that people are looking for validation with on their
Sure.
phones. I'm guilty of it too. But where real inner peace, happiness, fulfillment, that comes from within. That's an internal thing. That's
Yeah,
not coming from the outside. Now, whether that's meditation, prayer, there's many ways to
yeah,
have
that's
that
true.
time, right? I mean, I think there's a lot to be learned about that in today's world
Hmm.
because it's just so 24/7 in your face, notifications everywhere.
Yeah,
So that's a good habit to have, and
yeah, 100%.
your mindset.
I would just say, is there the willingness to learn about this kind of stuff today? I mean, that's for me the main question. I don't think there's the willingness of the vast majority of the world to learn about that.
I agree. I think you're right. I think the majority doesn't. They don't have access to this type of information. They don't have access to Wim Hof or these concepts. They are
Yeah.
not exposed to it. It's not a reality for most people.
And for the most people that are exposed to it, they'll say like, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I have better stuff to do.
Right. Right. It's
I
like, oh,
mean,
what is
it's a
this
choice, right?
phony?
At the end of the day, I think that everything you do in your life, you're choosing to do it. Oh, yes, there are certain situations that lead you towards A path versus B path, but you have a choice. Mostly in this kind of situation, you have a choice of meditating versus watching TV. You have a choice of doing a breathing technique instead of going on TikTok. That's a choice. That's
Don't get me
that's a
started
summary
on
from
TikTok and the that Chinese propaganda tool corrupting the
God.
minds of youth in America.
Oh,
It's a terrible, man. Don't get me started on TikTok.
they definitely are successful on that.
They have, and you know what they're doing? They're literally controlling what they put in the algorithm
Uh-huh.
here in the U.S. is like kids dancing and making a fool of themselves to get attention, and that's the validation they
Hmm.
want. You know what algorithms in China they're showing their kids? Kids playing symphonies, kids doing engineering, kids, accomplishing great things in maths and scientifics,
Right.
and they're programming our kids, man. It's like we're being controlled. Like the next
Yeah,
generation is going to be controlled if this
it's
shit
reality.
keeps if they allow it to keep going. It's crazy, bro.
I agree. I agree. But I do think that China is shooting themselves in the foot right now with this COVID zero policy. Like they had the opportunity now to really overtake everything. And there's something behind what they're doing, which we don't know. We might never know, but it's not looking good.
Yeah, and you have a unique perspective on the world politics, the world stage, just living in so many different places, and um, getting into your what's happening in Europe. Obviously, there's crazy crazy war that
Yeah.
the Russians have waged in Ukraine, and I've got my sisters in Europe too. So it
Hmm.
is a true global community that we are a part of today in
Of
today's
course.
world. And these issues all they really matter. Like, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the zero COVID thing. So let's talk a little bit about that. I don't want to like do COVID too much, but
Yeah.
you know,
Had
were
enough of it.
yeah, no kidding. But you were in Barcelona then, weren't you, when that all went down?
When it all went down, I was in Brazil.
Okay,
I
okay.
moved to Barcelona through COVID.
Wow, that must have
Um,
been a whole.
it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. Just getting visas and confirming planes. I mean, it's a nightmare, but it worth it definitely. And now we see this as just it is what it is.
Yeah.
But um, so what happened really was I went on my honeymoon to South Africa in February. On the way there, nobody was wearing masks. On the way back, everybody's wearing masks
Oh
already.
man, the world's
We touched down.
changed.
We touched down in Brazil on Thursday. On Monday, everything is closed. And
Gosh.
I was like, well, okay, it is what it is. And I was super scared at the moment. I was like, I'm not dying. I'm like, I have a plan of living to up to 100. I don't intend to die anytime soon. And then I was like, I'm not dying. I mean, if people are dying with this thing, I'm staying at home. Then obviously I learned lots of things, and now I'm super. I mean, I'm not. I don't care about that really anymore. But uh, I, I can really see the narrative of scaring people off, and I hate this conspiracy theories and stuff like that. But I mean, it's so clear what was done there. It's very clear. Like you can just plug in the point. So it's a shame. So the point that I cannot plug is the COVID zero in China. There's some crap going on. Then nobody knows. They
Well,
know it. Nobody else knows.
they
What it is,
they
I don't
keep that
know.
information tight. It's not a free
Hmm.
information. With that, they hold on to it. And
Yeah,
what their intentions are probably to global dominance, and we know that.
yeah. Yeah,
You know,
I agree. Well, they own the world financially, anyways. Already, I mean, they're owners of Africa. They're owners of the entire rest of Asia. They're half owners of South America now already. Very much owners of the most of EU. So, I mean, what those guys are doing, I mean,
it's a sleeping dragon. That's what they say. Like when it wakes
yeah.
up, the world,
I, I
will be on notice.
I told you before this, which really concerns me in the world is, well, there are two things, but the main thing is China taking over with the their political mindset, which I don't agree with.
Communism.
And yeah, exactly. And then the only thing that can face China is the US. And the US being the way it is, extremely divided. People are really cannot come together, and you have this so weak leadership in front of you. I mean, that's super concerning. It's extremely concerning. And just to maximize on the trends of what's going on in the world on this deglobalization and how people forget things. I don't know if you heard the news this past week in Germany,
I'm not
but
sure.
okay, so 25 guys got arrested in Germany for terrorism act. So they're from a group I cannot say it in Germany, but they are the Sons of the Reach. So they're the Sons of the Empire.
Wow.
And they're 25 of them were arrested while planning to overtake the parliament with guns and stuff like that. But what's very concerning about that, they're clearly state themselves as Nazis, and what they're all in high positions within the government. So there's a former senator, there is a like top general of the German army. All those guys were arrested. But imagine those if there are 25 that are being arrested, I mean, how many more are there? And what really drives me crazy is that how haven't that resonated in America that you haven't heard about it? Like, because that's not bullshit. That's like in 1932, 1935, people saying, yeah, that's all right, they're being arrested. Oh, that's all right. There's just a few guys. And then we know what happened. But what we know what happened, and what's just curious is all survivors that were, already adults that could think for themselves from that war, they're gone. Like if you're 18, the war, I mean, you're 95 today, 100. So I mean, those guys are gone. So the living memory of that, it's gone.
Wow.
And this thing popping up now again, it's so scary that people are not, paying enough attention to this and making enough noise about that. It's
Right.
a, it's a scary thing.
No, I had not heard about that at all. And that's extremely concerning. I mean, man, what's going on here? It is extremely concerning. I will absolutely agree with you there. Because of that, that's a prime example. The information we're getting, the information that the corporate media puts out, they don't put out all the
Hey,
information. It's
but hey,
all
you see a bunch of
corporate.
kids dancing TikTok.
We're in trouble, Philippe. We're in trouble.
Josh, if that doesn't tell you, I don't know what else does.
Right? They just want to talk about Kanye West, and yeah, that's fuck that guy. Piece of shit guy. I mean, it
Yeah,
goes with his not rise of Nazism, right? And
yeah, yeah,
anti-Semitism. I mean, that's just I hate it. I used to love Kanye, but man, that's history has a funny way of repeating itself.
yeah.
So they say. And
And I just, I will attach to that it must be that we're not very intelligent forms. It must be because I cannot understand if we are considered the most intelligent form of living in the planet Earth, and we manage to repeat such a stupidity in such a small amount of time. I cannot consider that intelligence.
it's so true. It's so true. Like, man, I mean, that's so. I mean, that's yeah. It's extremely concerning, and you know, I mean, there's a lot. Obviously, wars. We've been, thank goodness, not as many. I haven't had to go to war, thank God.
Yeah,
And all that. But like I said, my sister in Sweden. You know, with
Hmm.
there's a lot of it hits close to home, and obviously I know
Hmm.
many people over um, in Europe. So I mean, man, that is crazy.
It
I
is.
didn't know
It
about
is
the
scary.
and that they were leaders. I mean, look what happened at the Capitol here.
Yeah.
I mean, people stormed it, and we're wanting to hang the vice president. I mean, that's
So, like, I,
in America.
we have to laugh, not to cry, because really, that's, I mean, is it 1500s or something on this? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't understand.
yeah. No, it's unbelievable, and that a lot of people, man, they're messed up. It's a people problem. It really is too. I mean, there's
I feel, so I tell you what, I had this notion in Spain that, as we said, the Spaniards lived life well, and they don't have much concerns really because it's a pro-communist country. It's like a socialist country, to people that way. So people have everything given. You're not gonna find, like, you obviously find homeless people, but it's not that, that insanity. And poverty is not real. Like, you compare poverty in Spain and you put closer to a poor person in Brazil or Argentina. There's a big gap there, you know. So, but when you see the amount of protests that goes on in Spain, it's insane. It's every week. Every week, people in the middle of the day, hey, let's protest. I'm like, don't you have anything to do? And and that is true. And then there was a huge massacre of the Brazilian president, the sitting president, because he got beat in the elections now for a thief. But anyways, uh,
yeah. I do want to talk about
um,
that a little bit.
yeah, well, that's when I got canceled. But
Well, we can because I do want to talk about that because of the news that I get. I can't fully trust like what is actually
no, you don't.
happening. Like what is
Yeah,
really going on? They're not telling me the truth. I know that much. Hopefully
yeah,
I'm smart enough to know they're not telling me the truth. So
yeah,
what can we talk about that? Can we talk about what's happening? And
yeah.
because
Yeah, I'll
there's
get
a
to that. I'll get to that.
yeah,
I'll get to that.
yeah.
But let me just finish this one and get to that,
Please,
because
please.
so the massacre happened during COVID. It was like, well, everybody needs to be locked in uh, from the beginning. And there is a reality in third world countries that people don't understand it. The reality is, it's pretty to say, oh, you're in France or in Germany, oh, you guys have to be locked in. My friend, let me tell you, the vast 90% of Brazil lives in, they're low class, and that means they live in a house with 20 people in a house that fits three. And that means that if those guys don't go out to work, next day there's no food on the table, literally next day. So these guys could be care less for COVID. But at the same time, you're not going to see these guys protesting because they have to work. And that plays in two roles, really, because one, they're hard workers. The second one is that's how the government controls the people. They keep you poor. You think you're improved, but they keep you poor enough that you don't have time to protest. You don't have time to gain intelligence yourself and go protest. So that's how it goes, really.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
mean, people have to go to work. It's true.
yeah. But on the Brazilian election, I don't want to say too much about it, but
Sure.
okay, there's two things. There's Lula and Bolsonaro. Lula is a guy. Clearly, he pretends to be a communist, but he's a very capitalist for himself. He made lots of money from his time in as a president. So he has been president for 8 years, and he managed to serve a very positive world economic scenario for Brazil and make Brazil grow. Not because he did something intelligent, but he managed to do that. At the same time, he committed several political crimes, and which we managed to convict him in three different instances, which means that whenever you convict him in the third instance, you have to go to jail. There's nothing you can do. You're a criminal. So he went to jail. However, that man's so powerful that he managed to change the law so he could be released. How he managed to do that is The Supreme Court in Brazil has five or six judges, and you can only appoint a new one whenever the other one retires. He appointed four during his time, so he has the majority of the seats. Therefore, he rules that game. So even from jail, he made some calls. Probably said like, "Hey, I know a lot about your background, so you better change that law real quick." So everybody stays cool.
Wow.
So he managed to change that law, and he was released. Now, bear in mind that I had this argument with a family member, and the family member said, "Oh, but he like runs for the people and stuff like that. He rules for the people." Sorry, and I said, "How does he rule for the people? If he changes the law to be released, but by doing so, he released a law another X amount on the thousands of murderers, rapers, whatever that there were in that instance as well. How is that really for the people and not for himself? Please enlighten me." Well, that's one scenario. Then later on, because the Brazilian law would say if you ever been a felon convicted or whatever it is, you cannot run for president again. He managed to change that one too. So he ran for presidency. But he is the guy of the masses. He is the guy, and Brazil is made of masses. So he would definitely had a chance. On the other side, there's Bolsonaro, who is a very contradictional character. And bear in mind that his politics for economy and for the growth of the country were in bed, but different than Lula. He passed through COVID, he passed through war. So I mean, all this kind of stuff made situations harder. With that said, he's an idiot. He's a complete idiot that he's not president. Well, he's not made material for presidency. He is he cannot speak to the public without causing more hate than love. I mean, people just like he cannot present himself. So my theory is he hung himself really because every time he opened his mouth, even people that were divided would vote for Lula. In my perspective, that's unacceptable. You voting for somebody that clearly stole from the country, like he's shoving that everybody's throat, and it's like, hey, I robbed, but it worked. So it's very sad. And if there was any chance, I would go back to Brazil. There isn't any more after this. But I mean, if Bolsonaro lost, it's because he's an idiot, not because Lula is a great option, but because he's an idiot.
Wow. That is, and I think, um, that was, I mean, that's a crazy political story. I mean, that really is. And it's deep. And if I'm not mistaken, they call it the car wash, right? Car wash.
Yeah, the car wash operation. That's when Lula got arrested,
And they say it's like the big corruption scandal, right? And this
which
is what
is the biggest in the world in
the,
history.
the biggest corruption scandal in history.
Yeah,
Wow. So that tells you what, I mean, what's been
and
going on behind the doors of that.
that's the president again. That's the president again. Like how is that possible?
Didn't he, wasn't he running for president from a prison cell?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
he got out before he did that.
Okay.
Thank God.
Because if that was, how, I mean, that's just
I
like,
don't know.
I mean, that's
With
unbelievable.
all the respect to some third world countries in Africa, I mean, you guys probably have better politics than we do because we look at that crap. I mean, I think the difference from like US and UK, those countries, is that there's some shame behind that. Like if you get caught doing what he did in US, there's no chance you're gonna be president again. There's absolutely no chance because the voters will massacre you. In Brazil, it seems it's just you go unpunished. It's great to be a criminal in Brazil, really. I mean, just go ahead and do it because you're not going to be caught. And if you got caught, I mean, there's big chances if you have a big pockets that you're not going arrested or anything. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
That's tragic, man. That really is. But, hopefully for everybody that's there, I mean, there's turmoil. There's, that's big turmoil. But
Yeah.
There's got to be, Brazil as the, economic powerhouse of South America. It has great features, geographic location, and
Yeah.
natural resources,
Hmm.
beaches, beautiful people. So I mean, there's so much richness there too, and not to lose sight of the good sides too. But
Hmm.
it's a mess, seemingly.
It is.
I mean, but
But I
here is
mean,
too.
not to
Here
say
is
exactly
too.
as you said. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, maybe different situations, different circumstances, but it is. I mean, really, you look what.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're the world is all kind of in a shit show right now.
Yeah, that's what's concerning. Everywhere you look, there's shit.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, what's happening? There's nowhere to run. I can't. So I come to the UK. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to the UK, strongest currency. I mean, if, at least there's some organization. I've been here. There's been three, well, two. No, I came here with Boris. So yeah, so there have been three prime ministers in the last 6 months.
Wow.
You're like,
That's
what's
not.
happening?
Yeah, that's not stability.
No, they're calling it brutally.
Wow, how far they've fallen.
Yes.
Is there one aspect? So we talked about some of the challenges that the Brazil has faced politically in the recent time.
Hmm.
Is there one um, aspect of Brazil that you think this is what we do right? This is something that is so uniquely Brazilian that you know is something that you can be proud of.
Hmm. Several things, but I think if you think business wise, I think business wise first. Agriculture in Brazil is, definitely a benchmark for the entire world. We're very good at that. I'm not from that world, so I cannot really comment in detail. But I know that there's a lot of agro tech in Brazil. There's lots of production. We're very large exporter of commodities to all over the globe. So I think Brazil has done that right throughout the years. Um, when you think about people, I think Brazilian people or people that go through certain stuff and continue to smile and continue to pursue life in a better sense. So I haven't met bigger warriors yet in the sense of the world of pursuing happiness and stuff like that. Not in the sense of the word like we're great warlocks and stuff like that. That's definitely not true. But I'm very proud to say that I'm Brazilian. That I mean, I'm not gonna give up on the first hurdle that I find, and I do that trying to smile and try to improvise whenever needed. So I think I'm very proud of my country on that sense. The people that come out of there, we have the saying like Brazilians have to be studied because the ideas that come out of there, it's just insane. If we could turn all that for good, like that would be great. That will be a great nation, which we already are, but we'll be greater.
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit to that. Just from my experience with you being able to go to Brazil. Some amazing people, amazing. Amazing personality and joy of life. There's a spark there that I think
Hmm.
isn't in a lot of other places, and that's what I see as very uniquely Brazilian. Is just that there's an enjoyment of just life and some amazing people. Really,
It's hard to explain, isn't it? I mean, but
yeah,
there is something there that's definitely differentiate us from the others, and in that sense,
yeah,
it's just very hard to explain.
yeah, yeah. And maybe I just know really amazing Brazilians, but maybe I'm just lucky that
Well,
way.
yeah,
But
that's true. You're very lucky.
because yeah, there's all types out there, but
It's true.
privileged
That's
enough
true.
to know a few,
Yeah,
such as
no,
yourself.
definitely. No, I agree. I agree. It's just, I mean, the funny thing is that Brazilian will, even though they might have a bad character or whatever that is, they still treat you well at some point. Like let's say a taxi driver takes you to a longer route, but he shows you nice stuff and he's nice to you and stuff like that. So yeah, at the end of the day, you ended up paying more for that you need, but he did that with flair.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way
Yeah,
to put it for sure. Yeah. Is there any other comments about Brazil? Anything else?
I'm just broken that we lost the World Cup, really. But besides that,
Man, I was rooting for him. Ah, gosh. It
but
was
that's a
their
great
year.
example of what we spoke earlier, Luke, about how Brazilians are full of themselves. If you look, like we scored a goal, we thought that we won. Like it was clear, people were just like, "Oh, now we won. Let's do our thing here," and then we got shocked 5 minutes later. I mean, that's the perfect example. And I was saying that before we lost to Croatia. I was saying that when we beat South Korea, we scored 4 goals in 30 minutes. We didn't play after. We could have gotten score 4 goals after because we didn't play because we thought it's over. It's not like that, and you have to push into the last minute. That's what I'm not. That pisses me off really badly.
Yeah, they had it. I mean, you're right. They stopped. I mean, allowed that opportunity for Croatia to come in.
Yeah, yeah.
PKs,
I'm
man,
broken,
it's a
really.
heartbreaker.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was
Very sad.
wanting to get out my Brazil jersey that I got in Brazil in Sao
Yeah,
Paulo, and I was ready to go crazy in front of the TV,
yeah,
and we were heartbroken.
yeah.
Oh man,
Well, it is what it is.
yeah. And now the final. By the time this comes out, there'll be a winner. Who do you got?
I would say Argentina will win. I hope Argentina wins, even though I'm Brazilian, because
Ooh,
I do relate a lot on the way, like how brave they are and how courageous they are in the pitch. But I absolutely love Messi, and I think that would be a great screenplay movie for him to finish his career on top of the world.
absolutely. I mean, I'm rooting for him. I want
Me
to see
too.
him hold that cup.
He deserves it, man. I mean, look at that. I mean, and it's great. He's so humble. He has been humble for his entire career. And Mbappe, which is a character that I don't like, even though I respect very much the way he plays, he's terrific. But he came before, like 3 months before the World Cup. He said, "Yeah, the South Americans don't have a chance. Like they don't compete against European nations normally, so they're not used to that level." I mean, excuse you. And then now being the final against Messi, which is his teammate, and he's cocky enough to take the ball away from Messi several times while playing for PSG and say, like, "No, I'm the man. I'll take the free kick. I'll take the PK." You're playing with one of the biggest legends of the history of the sport, and even though you can be there, you're not. So respect a little bit the man, and I hope Messi destroys him in the final. That's my hope.
I hope so too. I mean, it's going to be hopefully a great matchup. What do you? What are some characteristics that you most admire about Messi?
I just I admire geniuses in all aspects in business, in characters in books, in football mostly. And I think Messi is just absolutely genius. He's from a different world, really, as people say. And on top of that, if you take into consideration that he comes from a poor family in Argentina, which is a poor country, and he was supposed to be 150, 151 without the drugs that Barcelona offered him. Like he was almost midget, really, and he managed to play a extremely physical sport to the best level we've seen. I mean, in my 30 years, 31 years of life, I haven't seen anything better. There's none. Like I know in the past there were things that were incredible too, which I do think that Pelé and Maradona, those guys are gods and icons. But Messi will be once he retires too. So my life, I haven't seen anything like that.
Right. And you mentioned the humbleness, right? Being at that, like,
Yeah,
with that level and still being a humble guy. I mean,
yeah,
sort of counter opposite of who a bunch of idiots say Cristiano Ronaldo.
yeah.
I mean, they
I
put him
agree.
above it. I'm like, no, no, no. Okay.
Yeah.
No way.
And it's too bad for Messi, for Cristiano Ronaldo that Messi exists throughout his career because Messi wasn't there. He was definitely the best.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can, in my perspective, you can compare both. You can compare. Well, Cristiano Ronaldo is a football player. Messi is a god. It's an icon.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, it is what it is. And Ronaldo, crazy enough, one thing that I respected for his entire career is his level of how professional he was. And in the last year, he's just became a punk, and you're like, what's happening with this guy? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's been sort of under the radar of cancel culture, you could say, and that's probably,
mhm.
maybe he's lashing back out. I mean, I don't know, but I am definitely rooting for an Argentina win. I know that, rooting for Brazil and then Argentina, that's sort of a
It's okay. We're
but
all there.
good, good. I'm with you there then. Good to know. So hopefully, yeah, we'll see, man. It's gonna be good tomorrow. But when we're recording this, it's happening tomorrow. So
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
we'll any
I'm
predictions?
excited.
Any just that
It's a
Messi beats Mbappe. That's what we want.
Yeah, that's what I hope. I think
Yeah,
it's too hard. I hope it's a great game, and I hope there's
yeah,
lots of goals both sides. So it's exciting.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah. It is very exciting. That is cool. And so now, Philippe, let's shift a little more to current day, right? What you're doing now,
Yeah,
life in the UK, how
yeah,
you got there. Can we shift a little there?
yeah. Of course. So I think let's start from how I got here.
Yeah,
As I said before, I had this goal during my MBA of staying in Europe. I'm married to Dani, and she has a British passport. So I saw there an opportunity saying, okay, I don't have to apply for a visa or anything else of the sort. But at the same time, I got introduced to a British company, familiar business called Radius Payment Solutions from Azadeh. So I started this initial conversation, and to cut a long story short, I got an internship during my MBA here at Radius. Did my internship. I think I did very well, and then moved back to Spain to finish my studies. I was hoping for a full time offer that never came. So I was kind of heartbroken on that. It's like, well, perhaps they didn't like me, whatever it is. But during my graduation, because this past cohorts didn't have graduation, they haven't had graduations because of COVID, we did so 2020, 2021, and 2022 classes all together. It's about 200, 1,200 people. Very nice. And all the parents and stuff. So I'm in that party and I see the CEO of Radius in the party because his daughter has graduated from the same school as I did. And I walked up to him and said, like, excuse me, I mean, we haven't met personally yet, we spoke on Teams, but this is who I am. I mean, we're just introducing myself really. He said, you know what? Let's have a little coffee now tomorrow so we can discuss a little bit of your future. All right. And then I went for coffee with him. Nicest hotel in Barcelona, very nice hotel. I always wanted to go there, so I was happy that he invited me to go there. And well, here I am, really.
wow.
Radius hired me after that coffee break, and I moved to the UK with my family. Um, and I think first lesson from this move is I moved to Manchester. And let me tell you, for everybody who visits the UK from abroad, and you probably visit London, it's not London. It's very, very different. But it's been great so far, besides the weather and the harshness of this kind of stuff, because Manchester is very live and people are very friendly. So that's great. Obviously, I don't like the weather. I don't like how dark it is, but that comes with life, right?
Sure.
Moving from Barcelona to anywhere else would be hard to compare, anyways.
Right.
But so what I'm doing now, I work at Radius. Radius is a one-stop shop for SME fleets in the UK and the world. We are in 16 different countries. We have 51 different offices. What we do really is, let's say Luke has a fleet of vehicles and you're a small company. We provide you if you need the vehicle, we can provide you fuel cards, energy cards, telematics solutions, insurance, telecoms, and on you go. You know, so um, my role is corporate strategy manager, and I sit in the corporate development team, which means we do M&A and we do any projects that don't sit perfectly in any of those divisions. And that's where I come in really, because I came in thinking that I was doing deals in M&A and stuff like that, and I put my hands into that. I help, but I by no means I'm proficient in this. So all what I do, but which is also a great learning experience for me. What I do is I take commercial projects that don't fall within any of the industries, any of the divisions. Right now, I'm heading a project that we call it InsurTech, because Radius is very good into cross sell. So we have a very large customer base, and whenever we get a new product or a new division, we grow by cross selling to that base. I don't go after new customers from that new product. We use the main product, which is fuel cards, to open the road, and then we just follow through. And Radius' second biggest divisions is telematics. And for those who don't know what telematics is those black boxes that you put in your car and you track everything you do. So for fleets, that's very important. And we have a large customer base in telematics, which means that we have lots of data on how people drive. And we also have an insurance division. So we said, hey, there's lots of telematics products for the personal space in the insurance division, but nobody has managed to do that in commercial space. Let's do it. And that's what I'm doing. I'm sitting in between those two divisions today, trying to plug in how to we get that data from telematics and we sell into the insurance world in a the better price with an optimized product and so on. So it's quite challenging, quite exciting to be honest. I'm very excited with the project. We're breaking some ground and we're getting closer to launch. So it's quite cool.
That's very exciting and a cool project. I mean, big company to be working with. I want you to take me back to that party, the big party, and
Yeah.
when you see this CEO that you know of, never have met, take me to what's going on in your mind. What caused you to go up to him, and what was that thought process?
Yeah. Right. So at that moment, I was a little bit broken, I'll be honest, because I had achieved all the goals all the milestones that I wanted on my goal, but my goal wasn't there yet. And many of the friends that I had made didn't have all that thought process, didn't have the milestones, and they had jobs already. I was like, what I'm doing. But I was sticking to the project. I was sticking to the goal. So I see the guy, and I'm like, okay, there's two things that I can do here. I can not make a fool of myself and don't go talk to him, or what do I have to lose, really? If I made a fool of myself for this guy and he doesn't hire me, it's just I stay the same as I am right now, really. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna go there and shake his hand, look into the eyes, and to like show who I am, because in my mind, by knowing a little bit of the company, a little bit of how the leadership would work, I thought that they would value that, and I just walked up, and he was surrounded by other people. So I was like, "Excuse me, I'm Felipe. Nice to meet you." And it's just like, it was very. I mean, it was very brave, to be honest. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think that wasn't thinking straight, but it
You
it
found some
really,
courage.
yeah, no, it really was a spark of the moment. I said, "Well, it's now or never." Like if that's meant to be, it's going to be right now, because I'm not going to be waiting for meetings to be rescheduled and rearranged. So very nice.
That's an amazing moment. I mean, that putting yourself up to that and just going for it. Again, being ready for that
Yeah.
opportunity and just going for it. And then being able to get the meeting and have that personal conversation and obviously make an impression and show your character to be able to get your foot in
Mm,
there and a leg up, if you will, to open that door for you. And that didn't
yeah.
come easy, probably. There's probably things you thought, am I going to make a fool of myself? Am I going to do this or
Yeah.
that? I mean, of course we have those thoughts, but you push through it, man. And boom,
Exactly.
look what happened.
No, exactly. I mean, I was just at the end of the day, I was very scared. I was like, because you don't understand what I say, but this guy is like, he's a top CEO in what he built. Like He built this company from the ground in 30 years, and we have about 3 billion revenue every year.
Wow.
I mean, 3 billion pounds revenue. That's a lot of money, man.
Massive.
It's yeah. So it's I mean, you're not speaking to anybody.
Yeah.
It's like you walking up and talk to like a Fortune 500 CEO just out of the blue. It's like the same scenario. So I said, you know what? It's now or never.
Absolutely. I talked to somebody on the podcast before. He was a photographer and photographed U.S. presidents. He was like the top of the industry. Oprah, Michael Jordan, you name
Amazing.
it. He's done it. The story reminds me of one of his mentalities. He's like, when you talk to like the most elite people in the world, the richest people, the most powerful people in the world, the way he approached his photography was he has a point of view, and if he is confident enough in that,
Hmm.
and he's okay if he would say like for them to fire him or reject him, but
Yeah.
if he has that point of view and he like sticks to it and sticks to who he that point of view, then either they're gonna appreciate that or they're just gonna pass you on, and
Yeah. Yeah.
if not, they'll eat you up. And this is what he
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. It's 100% true. Because now, after I had that moment of bravery, I deal with this guy every day. Like we go out for dinner. I mean, we were out on Thursday for Christmas party, and I mean, you have to really be able to establish yourself. Otherwise, and that's what they value. That's what they value because otherwise they're going to show you, they eat your life. Exactly. It's uh, you either add something to his life or you pass you.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's a pivotal moment. One of those again where you can be proven of what's happened, and you know that led you to here right now.
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly. There's definitely another pivotal moment in my life. One was stepping up for the soccer game in the early on in life to go to the US. And then second was being brave enough to talk to this guy.
Discomfort is where real growth opportunity can really happen. You know,
Very true.
and it goes for exercise, it goes for professional career. Yeah, being able to force yourself into
Yeah,
that. That's what it takes.
100%. And I mean, I face that in my job. I'm facing my job every day because they gave me amount of responsibility for the project, which is, unprecedented in my life so far. So I'm really leading stuff and leading people, making stuff happen, which is amazing. But also, if you put that in your mind, like moving to the UK to like Manchester, which is very small compared to every city that I lived in my life, in working in an environment where, trust me, it's not because I'm Brazilian and I look the way I look, but I'm treated as a foreigner. I'm treated as a foreigner, and you can see that day in day out. So having to battle those kind of stuff, and I really don't battle it. I just bring it to my side. I make fun. Yeah, I'm Brazilian. I mean, I'm here. I just kind of tell a little bit, fun stories, and people always fall into my side, really. But
You're a very likable person, Philippe.
yeah, that's I try to be. I mean, really, because I know if I was just dick or whatever it is, and this guy's would be like, well, this guy's Brazilian. He doesn't speak proper English. I mean, all of that. So, and plus fighting into industries that I don't know and in that I'm just learning now, and into an English that's almost incomprehensible. I mean, it's a lot that I'm learning. I'm fighting through. So I know there are dark days. They're literally dark. I mean, I'm tired. I just what I'm doing here. Why did I leave Spain or stuff like that? But at the end of the day, I know what I'm here, and discomfort is bringing growth.
It is. And it takes a while to get to where you want to be, right? There's not a lot of overnight success. Like you said, the CEO of your company built it for 30 years, man. It took that long for him to get to that level. And so these things don't happen overnight. Nothing
Yeah.
Really, there's no such thing as an overnight success. There just isn't.
Yeah, I know.
Even the
I mean,
greats, the geniuses of Messi, like think about how much time he had to put. I mean, of course, he was levels above everyone, but
yeah,
you know, he didn't get there
exactly.
just by natural gift.
Yeah, talent doesn't get you anywhere. That's well, perhaps talent gives you, you know, a trial, but there's no such a thing of talent and beating hard work. There's no such a thing.
It's true.
Hard work and the ability of taking hits and continue moving forward. That's definitely what sets people aside. And it sounds cliche because Sylvester Stallone said it, but it's true.
It's so true. Rocky Balboa. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
what an American hero.
oh my gosh, of course. He's got a statue right on top of the stairs in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
real. I ran that stairs.
did you pump up?
No, well, I didn't go so far. I did run up.
That's amazing. That's iconic. I mean, really, hitting the
Yeah,
meat
no, for
sacks,
real.
right? Like that's it. That's I mean, that's you have to pump yourself up, man. That's true.
Yeah,
At least I find, having to psych myself into things, like
yeah.
get your mental ready to like just go after it,
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
there's a lot of hard moments, but
Yeah,
just got to pick
but
up
that's
and
what
move.
make that's what make the good moments good.
It's so true. You appreciate it. You appreciate those good moments
Yeah,
because you've been through
yeah.
the
It's
tough
everything
ones.
is given for you. I mean, enjoy it.
It's so true. It's so true, man. Yeah. Do you have a piece of advice, maybe to a younger Felipe? Anything that you would say this is something that you need to do to get where you want to go? Or anybody that's young
Yeah,
listening, or anybody even that's in Brazil listening?
I think there are a few things, but the main one is when I think about my passion, and if you think you're good enough, and then it comes to a moment that you want to give up because you think, you know what, I'm just average, or don't. Like when I gave up on football when I was 16 to change sports and stuff like that, I consider that a mistake because if I had, if I knew what I know now, I would have made it. I'm 100% sure. And but I mean, obviously you don't. That's the beauty of life. But if I can pass that through, like don't give up. Don't do stuff that don't add you to your life. Like you want to go party, it's not gonna add anything to your life, really. I mean, obviously there are moments for party, but prioritize your dream. Always do that. But with that said, I think the biggest advice that I have is that whatever decision you make, stick to it and make it right. There's no such a thing as wrong decisions. There's decisions that you didn't pursue enough for me. I mean, if you come to a point in your life that you have to think, oh, I either, go back to Brazil or go to England or whatever it is, whatever you decide, don't go back and change it. Just make it work. Make the best out of it because you don't know if the other decision will be better. You imagine if it could, but you don't know. So whatever decision you made, own up and push it through. Push it, make it happen the best you can. It might be nothing like you imagined, but it is what it was meant to be. So just go for it.
Yeah. It reminds me of a saying that like, there's no hard decisions either. There's no such thing as a hard decision. This is a mentality to take towards making decisions because we have to make decisions all the time. Um,
Yeah,
Big decisions, but there's no such, if you take the mindset of there's no such thing as a hard decision, it's just a decision. And maybe
yeah,
consequences of that decision will be hard, but most of the time there's really not. It's not a hard decision. It's what comes after. And so that can help you better approach making decisions. When you come
yeah,
to decision making, it's not a hard decision. It's a decision that needs to be made and you move on. I think a president said that once or something.
yeah. And I mean, I would I won't completely agree to that because I think there are some pretty hard decisions, mostly when you come older in life. And when you, swear to God, when you're 20, there's no hard decisions. That's true.
Yeah.
But when you're like, your decision affect others, like whenever
Mm.
I decide, I mean, I need to get Denny into it and Verona and hopefully my kids in the future. So that starts to get harder because you're responsible for others. But at the same time, I stick to what I said. Whenever you make that decision, own up, make it happen. I mean, it's up to you. Oh, but I need help. It's up to you to get help. I mean, just do whatever it has to be done to make that decision right, because the time is not going back. That decision was made. There's no turning around. So
What about I'm gonna ask you some more advice here, Philippe,
go for it. I don't know if I'm the
because
right person to give advice
I
out there, but
this is my now I'm putting you in the hot seat.
all right, that's good. Go for it.
But with your perspective, and being an very, very international person, can you give someone some advice on why, if somebody's coming to the US or somebody going to a new culture, a new place, you don't speak the
Yeah.
language, can you say something about that? And what would you say to somebody that maybe wants to have that experience for themselves?
I think it just comes back from what I just said. Just make it happen, really. Because let's say we have perfect examples in our lives, Lou. Like people that moved into the US and didn't immerse itself in the culture, and it's a tendency, really. Like if you're Brazilian and you move to the US and you don't speak very good English, you're it's gonna be you're gonna be attracted to the Brazilian community, which there is everywhere. So there's one everywhere. So you're going to speak to these people and you're going to be, speaking Portuguese all the time. You're going to be living as much as, the Brazilian culture as you can, which that's not how you're going to take the most out of the US. That's not how you're going to take the most out of France or Spain, wherever you go. Um, if you want to really learn a culture and if you want to really, take the best out of that place, you need to surround yourself by that kind of people, the people that speak that language, that live that way. That's how you're gonna learn. And unfortunately, that's not what the vast majority do. But I think that's the main thing.
I think that goes right back to that theme, if you will, of one of the themes of this podcast. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no,
interesting.
exactly.
That's
And
really interesting.
I do think that people need to keep in mind that we sell the American dream used to be sold and whatever. It's like, oh, it's a dream to go live somewhere else. It might become a dream eventually, but it's going to be hard at the beginning, man. Everywhere, because you have to understand, you're a different person joining a new system. It's not that the system is going to adapt to you. You need to adapt to the system. Like here in the UK, for instance, like because I'm a foreigner, because I don't have credit score, whatever that is. Everything is harder. Everything is much more expensive for me. Like I pay my car insurance is ridiculous. When I tell people what I pay for car insurance, they go, "Well, how is that possible?" I said, "That's a great question. I don't know, but that's what it is." You have to be prepared to adapt to the system, and you have to be, well aware of that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to share from your travels around the world? Is there any places that stick out, or is there anything else that you want to mention about your traveled self, your international self?
Oh, yeah, that's a completely new conversation, but I would say I'm not very well traveled, to be honest. But if you speak to Danny, you see what's well traveled. But there are a few places that you have to go that it's completely different from everything else. I think South Africa, it's terrific, and other African countries, I believe so as well. Uh, you learn so much from. There's a different culture. Luckily, they speak English, so it's not that hard. But it's a unique country. It's filled with beauty, and you come out of that so well. with yourself. Like I made sure that I worked out and meditated every morning when I was there. I was there for 20 days.
Wow.
Uh, and I did that like in the middle of the forest. I did that, among animals. And that was brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. That's one. And the second one is, if you're a wine lover, go to Burgundy and stay there forever because it's amazing.
Now, can you describe the atmosphere? Can you describe the what is that state of mind when you're there?
And you just so confident of yourself, but you realize that it's again how you fit into the environment. Like, because you imagine, I'm definitely not from, a forest or a jungle or anything. Like, São Paulo is huge. But then you're there and you just like such a beauty and the sound of it. You're so exposed to the new, but if you actually manage to fit in, you just the feeling of peace. Really, it's a feeling of peace that you belong. It's great, really. I mean, it's an experience that I really want to try it again.
Yeah, I do love wine, and there's wine country in California, which I know you also took a trip with your dad
Yeah,
on the Pacific coast. I know that's a special place as well. The
indeed,
California coast, is a very
it
special
is.
place for wine country
I
as well.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, California is great for tourism, not for living,
Yeah,
but
yeah, for
for
sure.
tourism is amazing. And
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I recommend for anybody.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But so just recently, I did a trip. I went from Barcelona to Paris driving, and I stopped in main places in France throughout that journey. So stop in Avignon, which is a very historical city for two reasons. One, that was where the Pope resided before they actually moved into the Vatican.
Wow.
And second, because they make terrific wine, it's like impressive. It's Chateauneuf du Pape, terrific, which actually translates to the Newcastle of the Pope. So that's how the wine region is called.
Cool.
And then we went from there to Lyon, and Lyon is special because it's the gastronomic capital of France, which is a gastronomic country, really. So you can imagine how good that comes,
Wow.
like terrific. And then we drove to Burgundy and then arrived in Paris, which for me is the number one city in the world in all aspects. There's nothing better than Paris. But uh, really, the ability of driving through places, that's the nicest bit of the journey. You drive through such a nice places that it's different flying into than driving into. If you fly into, you just see that place. If you drive into, you see so much more.
I completely agree. I think that's the best way to see America is through a car driving. You said
Yeah,
it. You get to see it. You get to stop on those places along the way. Like the plane's
hmm
not going to touch down on the Newcastle of the Pope,
exactly.
and that's deep in immersing in the culture too. Is just by finding places like that. So I think that's the best way, definitely,
So
to see the world.
next week we're doing for New Year's Eve we're doing a Manchester Edinburgh, and people say that Edinburgh is the best New Year's Eve night in Europe, really. So
Wow,
I'm very excited for that.
that's
But
exciting.
besides that, everybody say that the drive is terrific. Like it's beautiful. You go through amazing nature. I'm looking very much forward to that.
Yeah. Was lucky enough when Maggie was in Barcelona. I spent New Year's in Barcelona, and
Okay,
that
cool.
was a fun one. We were popping champagne in the streets and eating the grapes.
Oh
It was
yeah,
like
they do 12 grapes
the
in
bell would
12
ring.
seconds.
That was a fun, with the wine in the streets and the fireworks.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was that was memorable. Yeah, so that's gonna be fun, man. That's exciting that you got
yeah.
that coming up. You have to tell me about how that goes.
I'll definitely fuel you in after.
Yeah. Now, Philippe, what do you want to talk about your shirt and your jacket real quick? I mean,
Yeah.
what's going on with that?
That's I mean that's my school really. I've never been so proud of school, but that's my MBA.
Nice.
So well, first thing I'm wearing two of them because it's helly cold here in Manchester. In my apartment, for a reason, it's colder than the street. Um, so I'm suffering,
You got
but
to
I'm
bundle
wearing
up.
two of those. But I'm very proud of it, really, because at the end of the day, I think that's one of the biggest achievements in my life. Like you come into, for those who don't know, is that is one of the top 20 business schools in the world, definitely top 10 in Europe. So it's and graduating on top 10% of the class. It's a huge achievement. And I'm very proud of the institution, really, of the friends that I made, what I've learned, how inclusive it is. I really, well, everything can be better, right?
Of
But
course.
as long as it gets really close to, what I think of optimal.
That's amazing. And can you mention some of your classmates where they were from? Because I know it was a pretty diverse
Yeah.
group.
So we had 198 people from 49 different countries. So it was a very diverse group. We had people from, like you mentioned, like it's insane, from America to everywhere in Europe, lots of places in Asia. Like I have Malaysia, I had Korea, Japan, lots of Japanese actually. We had Philippines, we had Singapore, we had Taiwan, and then we had in Africa, had Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt. Egypt actually, one of my best friends from the NBA is Egyptian. We had Lebanon as well. We had great guys. Um, Obviously, as a Brazilian, I'm gonna shout out to the Brazilians because we had 20 Brazilians out of those, almost 200. So it's a lot of Brazilians making the effort and taking the investment to do it. Lots of Italians, lots of Germans. So it's a very fun group, really. Like because we bring the best out of all the cultures, really. So there's like parties every night, different environments, different food, lots of drinks. It was great times.
Yeah, I mean that is such a. I don't think I've heard of a more diverse cohort before. And you mentioned like you bring out the best of the cultures there. Whenever it's that melting pot, I mean, there's a lot
Yeah,
of cultures happening. Are there through lines though that you see that connects you to them as a person that is cross culture? I guess I'm asking: are there certain aspects that go beyond nationality? Like whenever you're in that big of a diverse group, are there things that it's like this kind of just makes us human?
yeah, 100%. Like so the spirit of wanting to help, I think that's what makes us human. And regardless of whether the person is completely different from you, like yeah, I met people that are completely different from me, but we were all in that together, and we were all striving for the same thing. Actually, so we were competitors, but because we were in the same jersey, everybody was helping each other, and that was terrific. Like I guarantee there wasn't one guy that I out of those 200 that I couldn't call say like, hey, I don't know this, can you help me? And they would stop what they're doing and help me. And I go even further because not of one guy, but it's like if I call guys from the previous cohort, they will help me. If a guy who's there now call me, I'll help him. So I mean that's the spirit of the thing that I'm very proud of.
Oh, that's amazing. That's I think we need that, and we need to say that. I think like you know that helping. I think that can. Wow, that's an amazing thing, really.
I agree. I agree. It's an amazing spirit that
Yeah,
I don't. It's hard to find elsewhere.
it is with all division and everything. That I think that needs to be amplified more. I think that
No,
I think that I think that's
100%. And
great.
I'm not saying like, hey, somebody that I don't really like or that I don't really connect, he calls me and is like, oh, let's have drinks together. That's not something I'm willing to do. But he calls me, hey, I don't know this. I need help to achieve a certain thing, and that's my situation. Could you help me? Because we were the same jersey. Yeah, that's definitely. I'm going to do that for him.
Who has the best parties?
Brazilians, and that's unanimous decision for everybody.
I have to agree. I will throw my hat in there. That is true. from my experience.
It is what it is. I mean, that's true.
It is. It is. Have the most fun, I think. That's it. That's that
Well,
spark, right? That's that flavor. That's
yeah,
that.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. That
It's
was
actually
mutual.
very good.
Yeah, it is.
And it's actually very true, too, that Italians are very picky with their food. But even so, to tell you what, it's even amongst them. Like every southern guy who moves north, so the guys from Napoli, he moves to Milan, he will eat pizza and say that's not pizza. Guarantee. Like you can ask the entire nation of Italy, they'll say the same. They're so proud, and it's just very funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can imagine that would get very serious. The food in Italy, you know.
Oh God, I'm just very happy that I made some great friends from Italy. So they don't only teach me how to cook, but they cook for me as well. It's just great.
You're doing something right, Philippe.
Yeah, for real. No, that's differentiator.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of any culture is the food. So being able to dive into that, I mean, that's one of the best parts. We love to eat. We love to, you know,
Yeah,
that aspect of
yeah.
it. I remember.
Well, I only travel for drinks and food, so
I remember we went to uh, when I was in Brazil. We went to this place, this French restaurant at the uh,
abusing.
a building. It was this famous chef. Do you remember this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. James Olivier. So uh, I was just there a couple of months ago.
Wow,
Yeah, very nice.
very cool place. Uh,
We had a blast that night.
we did. It was kind of before the wedding
Yeah,
party went out to the destination where it was being held, and had some boys, you know, there
yeah. All the
with
boys
us.
from the US
Yeah,
and Igor. It was very cool.
I remember just the food was so good, and just we just went all out. I mean, we did. You know, I mean
Yeah,
that's
we drank cognac and everything. That was a great night.
we did, man. We did it right. You have to, man. You have to do those moments right. Like
Yeah,
you know,
agreed.
those opportunities don't knock every day. So you got to make it
No,
the
but I tell you what, I remember as well the time that you went to Chicago to visit me, and then we went to that jazz bar and just got whiskeys there. So that was a great night. So
yes, it was. Yeah,
cold
we
as hell.
it was. It was very cold, but we did our thing, man. That's how we do. We love the life itself, music, drinks, food,
Yeah,
good, company.
conversations like deep
Yeah. Oh
conversations, and it's
yeah.
hard to have that with anybody.
It sure is. It sure is. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And even um, eating, just yeah, eating just the best food. I mean, even the buffalo cheek in Brazil and, everything.
Yeah,
Just I want it all. But Philippe, I'm hoping we can break bread again in person
soon enough.
soon enough, have a scotch and a cigar and get
That'll be
deeper
that's
into
that
more,
sounds
man.
dreamy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tell you what, I mean, again, if you invite me to do podcast live next time, I'll definitely go there.
In person, let's go. I'd love to
Yeah, I
have
mean,
you.
and if you want to come visit the UK, you're more than welcome. You know that.
Well, thank you, bro. I appreciate that. I'd love to. I'm looking at next year, maybe Europe trip next year. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I haven't given up yet on going to
Yeah,
the US this year, but let's see how that goes.
sure, sure. Yeah. You gotta, it's good to have something to look forward to, right?
Yeah,
To put that out there. I mean, that just sort of keeps, you know,
yeah, yeah.
keeps
It keeps you
hopes
moving,
alive. Yeah,
really.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So look forward to when we can do that again, my friend.
sounds good, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for. I mean, it was great. I never been interviewed like that before. It was great. I mean, I'm very happy that we did it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Thank you for letting me, hear your perspective, and ask these questions. It's again takes, just bravery too to come on here, just like
But for real, it
to have
does.
that authenticity. It really
Yeah,
does. So, thank you for doing it, man.
I appreciate it. And you're great. You're a great host. So, I mean, you
Oh,
know how to
wow.
make things flow by easy.
Hopefully it wasn't too painful for you.
Oh, Jesus, this is amazing. I just hope that people listen to it.
Hey, there will be. And, I like to think of these podcasts as sort of like just a moment in time, that who
Yeah,
knows, man, like down the road, hopefully these things will just stay out there. I mean, it'll be around
yeah,
for who knows how long. Hopefully, as long as there's YouTube and Google or
yeah.
Apple.
Hopefully longer. Yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, who knows, man? Who will be watching this, when they'll be watching it. I mean,
yeah, yeah. I agree. I mean, I'm keen to do it again if you want. I
I'd
mean, we
love
can
to.
talk about more specific things. I don't know about can talk about insurance, whatever that is.
We can do it, man. I'd love to. We'll do it
And
again. Yeah.
yeah, no, that'll be amazing. Really, I mean, I really enjoyed it. And if there is anything that I can do to help, I mean, you don't even have to hesitate. Just text me and it's done.
I appreciate that, man. And likewise, and I always so appreciate our conversations because it is just so, there's just such a back and forth and just so authentic. And I just value the friendship that we've had for a very long time. And when we do get to connect, that's an amazing thing. And so
I agree. Me too,
it's
man.
been a good time.
Me too. Hey, I'm be cheering for you in the marathon as well, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to need it. I'm going to need that motivation. I'm going to think, okay, I told Philippe I'm doing the marathon. I got to get out of bed today.
In under 4 hours.
No chance. No chance. That's
Oh,
what.
there is a chance. There is a chance.
We'll see how the training goes. Yeah. Awesome, man. But Philippe, dude, it's been amazing. Is there any last words you want to say? Any messages that you want to send out to people out there listening? Could be anything at all.
Dude, and that's hard, but I mean, well, really, I would like to see the world do more is drop off their phones and improve themselves. Like, get out of your phone, use your phone for, whatever is positive, and which is like connecting to important people in your life. I think it's the most relevant thing. Other than that, go get some knowledge, go get some, runs and go do something to make yourself feel better about yourself, not just dreaming of other people's Instagrams and TikTok dancing. I think if more people did that, we'll be in a better place, definitely. That's as far as my advice can go. Like, I could speak for hours on that, but I mean, I
We
think I've been boring enough.
Oh, no. And we will. We'll get back into it. We'll have you back on and do this exact same. Do it again. Just dive into different topics and yeah,
That'll be cool.
we'll do it again,
That'll
brother.
be great. Yeah, let's do it again, man. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. And yeah, I mean, Happy New Year, Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas. You too, man. Happy New Year.
And, yeah, all the best for the family and take care.
Awesome, Philippe. Well, I'm gonna sign off for now, but thank you again, Felipe Mattar, so much, my good friend, for coming in all the way from the UK. So thanks for taking the time out of your day, man, to come on here. It's been great.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
And thank you for listening and thank you for watching the Union Street Podcast. We have a new podcast every Friday at noon Central Standard Time. Like this video, take Philippe's advice, put down the phone, better yourself, seek that discomfort and personal growth.
It was good stuff, man. Exactly. Go for it, guys.
You can do it. All right.
All right.
We'll see you in the next
Cool.
one.